All right, we're going to call this February 3rd council meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Amy Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Roisin O'Farrell.
Here.
Mayor Josh Amato.
Here.
Councilmember Kent Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Pamela Stewart.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Debbie Treen.
Here.
All right, and we will, I will lead us in the pledge today.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember O'Farrell, will you please read the land acknowledgement statement?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We acknowledge we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers for this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you very much. And with that, we will be starting public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for general public comment? This is different than the public hearing public comment, which we will take later.
Excuse me, Mayor.
First, we have the approval of the agenda.
Oh, thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now we will take public comment. That's why I took you out of by surprise there. All right, first up we have Mary Wichter, followed by Paul Quinn. Please state your name and your city of residence, and at 3 minutes I'll begin to cut you off. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mary Wichter, and I've lived in Sammamish for 25 years. For regular public comment tonight, I had emailed in. I understand that everybody in the city is allowed to have emergency services, including fire calls, police calls, and anything that you would need, that sort of way. And I was curious to know how many there were. So I had talked with Eastside Fire and Rescue at the Station 83 and learned about their data analyst down in Issaquah. And so I'd emailed you guys a chart that I got from them. And I understand that I think some or most of City Council gets this data fairly regularly, like weekly or monthly or something or other. But this is just a snapshot of 6 categories for the last 6 years. And for fire, like there's one for alarms that they respond to, emergency medical services, structure fires and non-structure fires. Then they also have motor vehicles and others. So if you just add up the 4 columns to the left, you find out that on average for the last 6 years, there's been about 2,300 calls and responses annually, and about 2,500 if you include the other category in the motor vehicles, and the motor vehicles are increasing. So anyway, the reason that that's important is there is a Washington state law that says for fire hydrants, you're not allowed to park within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. But in the city of Sammamish, if you live in a private road area, there is no enforcement for that. And it's basically left to owners or people who notice or people who can't get by trying to find out whose car that is and try to get it moved. Or sometimes there's blockages, like people will put construction or other things in the way. And you just can't have that, because with 2,300 to 2,500 calls per year, that means 6 to 7 per day if you just mathematically average them, and we know it's not the same amount every day. But it's very important. So since there's a Washington state law saying that you shouldn't be able to do that, I'd like the city to consider our own code to say, hey, you can't park by a fire hydrant, but you also can't block the access area. And this is an impossible thing to do. I talked with the traffic officer here. We have 2 of them. And he said, the code from Washington State's clear, but the King County code isn't, and there's like all these if things, and he goes, it's just not clear. So then I went to Issaquah to find out if they were having the same problem, and I talked with that traffic officer there, who actually is friends and a motor cop with a guy that works in Sammamish, and he said, oh, we can do it in Issaquah because we have a code adopted for that. And he read off I forget the code reference, but it's 10-28-020 and 030. So I put that as an appendage to my email. I would like it looked at. I think it's a simple thing to do. We basically We don't want to have fire hydrants anywhere in our city blocked, either for access or for use of. And I do understand that if the fire people are in an emergency and, sometimes they have cardiac situations or stroke, that they can actually like push the car out of the way and damage it, or truck or vehicle or whatever blockage it might be, which I'm not sure how they don't damage theirs. But then they can also like break out the windows and put their hoses through it. So we want to avoid
you,
that
Mary.
at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Quinn is up next, followed by Lapinder Dinsa, I believe. Up after Paul.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Paul Quinn. I live in Sammamish. I'm speaking to you as an individual who cares about fairness and how Sammamish solid waste customers are charged for disposal. Right now, we charge residents and businesses for disposal based on the size of the container being picked up. And this approach is unfair, as it charges all people based on the size of the container rather than what's in the container. We know this is wrong, as our water, gas, and electricity charges are based on what we use rather than on the size of the wires and pipes connecting us to service. In addition, residents expect to know what our actual usage is for utilities, not just the size of our container. I've emailed you brochures, handouts, and handout number 1 shows a fact sheet which includes the trend of the diversion rate for Sammamish updated through July 2025, and a graphic of the monthly cost for garbage disposal for your single-family residences. Costs for disposal continue to go higher. And King County has just told us last year that they expect that you're going to double costs for the landfill that'll be passed on to residents and businesses. This trend is troubling. And what's worse, right now, residents can only affect what they pay for changing a container size, not by reducing the pounds of trash sent to the landfill. In fact, costs are increased for folks who work hard sorting recyclables and composting food scraps by charging them just the same as others who are indifferent. This is unfair, and it can and it should be changed by weighing the refuse each customer creates. And to begin this change, I recommend a pilot program called Smart Disposal. And note, Smart Disposal is an innovation, it's not a company. Handout number 3 outlines how Smart Disposal works, and it provides a postcard mailed to each resident based on the weights that they've disposed. And it gives them data specific for them and includes a diversion rate and how they compare to their neighbors in terms of how they're using this disposal utility. I provided a handout, show an example postcard, and the system helps us move from a toss and forget mindset, which is effectively what we have today. We all know that feedback through measurement works because water, electricity, and gas are metered. Smart Disposal provides the meters our disposal utility needs. Some cities are waiting for the producer responsibility law to come into full effect to achieve their diversion goals. This is an important law, and it will help, but it still won't provide feedback to individual residents about how they're doing. And further, it won't allow the city to target its recycling and composting education programs to the folks that most need it. Instead, it goes to the whole city. Without personal reporting each year, we keep doing the same things, which is why the city's diversion rate has not improved since 2021. We need this council to provide the urgency and the leadership to drive Smart Disposal forward. Reporting to residents what they dispose of at the curb provides transparency and fairness for our disposal utility. This council should support true innovation in our disposal utility, resulting in fair pricing
Thank you.
and improved diversion.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Lapinder and then Roberto Ruiz afterwards.
My name is Upinder Dhinsa. I've lived in Sammamish for quite some time, 215 East Lake Sammamish Parkway on the lake. 2 items. Number 1 is that the bicycling speed on the trail continues to be a challenge. We live right on between the lake and the trail, and many a time we have small kids walking over there, and we see bicyclists coming still quite fast. So need to think of some way to slow them down so they don't run somebody over. That has been a concern for a while. It improved, but it's kind of picking back up again. Secondly, I want to compliment the planning and permitting department. They have been, even though quite stretched, but they are very responsive and have done good guidance for new projects that are coming up. I have challenged that before. Originally, I used to praise them a lot. Then I backed off, and I wanted to restart saying that it has, for whatever the reason, it has really improved, and my compliments to the council and the city staff.
Thank you for your comments and your feedback. Roberto Ruiz, and then Jillian Wallace after.
Roberto Ruiz, Sammamish resident and chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. First, I'll speak as a resident. I'd like to congratulate the new members of the council on your election. The residents of Sammamish spoke loudly with their vote, rejecting plans for a town center with 4,000 units and opposing the manner in which city finances are being handled. The previous council ignored concerns about traffic, emergency response, schools, and safety. But not only that, some of these plans were being carried out without proper transparency. They ignored extensive commentary by concerned residents at city council meetings, as well as survey results with overwhelming opposition. An example of arrogance and disrespect was demonstrated by a councillor telling demonstrators outside City Hall that if they did not like the plan, they should move somewhere else. A pressing issue we have in Sammamish is the lack of communication to residents. This creates opacity. This last election required a lot of people like myself to put extra effort to educate our friends and neighbors, letting them know what was at stake. Enhancing communication to residents should be a priority. In summary, I urge you not to make past mistakes, listen and respect the residents of our beautiful Sammamish, and paraphrasing one of the candidates, work for the benefit of existing residents, not those who do not currently live here. Now I'll speak as chair of Parks and Recreation. I feel the function of the commission as currently structured makes the commission ineffective and irrelevant. It is the city council's authority and prerogative to make decisions about projects and funding. However, what is the purpose of having a commission if you do not seek our involvement and advice? You are well aware the commission unanimously and strongly condemned the decision to reallocate the land acquisition funds. All trust was broken when our pleas were ignored. I come here to make the following requests. 1, establish a more direct line of communication between City Council and the Commission. We currently rely on staff to communicate to our initiatives. I've been told that is the way government works. However, I do not believe current protocols work. You should have the authority to change these protocols. I propose scheduling no less than 3 meetings per year between City Council and the Commission, where we can align objectives, report progress on activities, and exchange perspectives. 2, our commissioners have extensive experience, credentials, and qualifications that are not currently being leveraged. We are eagerly wanting more involvement and responsibility in projects from their beginning to the end. 3, restore our land acquisition funds so as new and appropriate land opportunities arise, we can consider them and jointly decide on the benefit to the residents of Sammamish. Your consideration to these requests will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of personal privilege.
State your point.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that we actually did restore the funds to the Parks Land Acquisition Fund after we received feedback from the Parks Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Allocated to the purchase of a quarter of that.
I'm sorry, please. Thank you.
It was not allocated to that. It was actually restored to the fund.
Let's get back to the
Okay,
public
I just
comment
wanted to
and-
make sure that the record was
I appreciate
straightened.
that. Thank you. Jillian Wallace and then Carrie Bosworth.
Greetings, Jillian Wallace representing Northwest Sammamish, and tonight I would like to discuss forward thinking. I would like to challenge the city to respond to the high probability of losing a majority of our child care providers. We already have very young children in our public schools who are seriously grieving, major grieving, loss of their most precious people kind of grieving. Some are lashing out with big feelings and are becoming bullies to peers, while others are disappearing in their grief. Many of these kids are suddenly walking home unescorted. Oh, and did I mention there are unknown people loitering in our public streets for long periods with non-response from both emergency and non-emergency response phone numbers. New York is suggesting childcare as part of public responsibility to assist those suddenly grieving children with a safe place to exist. Some of our local public schools are working to engage grief counseling and provide social emotional education universally. We see the effects of this education in our communities, the acceptance of having big feelings and providing a safe space to grieve. But this isn't enough, not fast enough. They'll hit us harder after soccer is done, and we need to be prepared. There isn't enough community engagement to cover this level of sudden and tragic loss. How do we care for our community's children as these young children take over the care of smaller siblings? Who is cooking? We're going to have a big uptake in kitchen fires. Are we prepared for that? As we lose adult escorts while walking home from school, who will provide the extra street safety? We might have abductions. This is only the beginning of these effects, and we need forward planning to protect our children. We need a safety net of our communities to work together to protect our neighbors. We need properly working and clearly accessible fire hydrants in every residential space. We need responsiveness from our safety responders, and they need to be able to actually get to the home in danger. But equity is bringing those universal response services to actually become accessible to every resident of Sammamish, regardless of their address, be it public or private road, regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of their age. We've seen the program links and resources for immigrants and refugees listed on the city's site, but what is the city's plan for a safety net? How many of our young kids would actually think to look at the city's website for resources? They're kind of busy learning how to caregive. And those mature enough to actually look might be too scared to contact those resources in case that draws attention to them and their family. We are at the beginning of this mess, and there will be long-term effects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Carrie Bosworth, followed by Swan Jacobson.
Hello. Good evening, City Council and community. My name is Carrie Bosworth, and I live in Sammamish since 2018. It's come to my attention that the council retreat this weekend may not be digitally available to the public. And I know I'm triple booked, and I know there are people here in the community that watch that meeting as well. I think it's a great opportunity for residents and other interested parties to sort of see how council is thinking and leading the city. I hope that you will reconsider, especially if there are some council members that would like the meeting to be digitally available as it has over the last couple of years. Earlier, we heard from Roberto, who wants to see transparency and sharing this meeting with as many residents as possible virtually as well as in person should be a priority. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Swan Jacobson, followed by James Eastman.
Hello, I am Swan Jacobson, pronouns are they, them, and a Sammamish resident of 12 years. I'm here to talk about ICE. Earlier today, hundreds of students walked out of class in protest. They were joined by many adults in the community who rallied together against the hatred and evil of the fascist regime that is stalking our streets. Even more than the No Kings protest last year, this has given me hope. I saw students with beautifully prepared speeches light a fire in people's hearts. I saw students inspired with no plan but their anger and pain bring a light to their peers' eyes. And in the last few speeches, the most important point was driven home again and again and again. Protests like these are the start, but they fall short without a community that can take action to support each other. The city has already started taking some action, which I appreciate and commend with all of my heart. And I saw our police officers out there today, and I saw members of our council stand proud with the high schoolers running this protest and speaking. I know there have been conversations with the chief of police, at least conversations about that happening. And I also know our state governor, Bob Ferguson, recently released a press conference outlining plans at the state level to protect our communities. I know that I don't know all of the details and that there are limits to what a city or a state can legally do. But we've also reached a point where some questions need to be asked. I don't expect an answer to all of them, but I need them to be heard. If masked thugs, even ones that can claim the legitimacy of ICE, are breaking the law, why should they be able to get away with it? They have no legal power to pick people up off the street, and frankly, why would it matter even if they did? If they cross the line, if they break the law, why are they immune to arrest? So I asked the Sammamish City Council and I asked the Sammamish Police Department, if or when ICE comes to Sammamish and ignores court orders, are you prepared to stop them? Are you prepared to take action to protect our residents? Are you prepared to uphold your oaths of office? I know I can't expect answers to all of these, but I hope to see action. Jillian spoke well a moment ago about asking for more action outside of just these topics to protect our city. These are important as well. Thank you. Fuck ICE.
Thank you for your comments. James Eastman, followed by Christy Santo Domingo.
James Eastman, East Lake Sammamish Parkway. I, like Carrie, am also excited for the retreat this weekend. I don't know if it's wishful thinking for me, but you know, you see these retreats coming around, you're like, all right, maybe we'll get a reset. We got a new council, we'll gel, and we will have an agenda and have 7-0 votes from here on out, and we will make progress on something. So that's my hope coming out of your retreat. I think what's held you back the last 8 years since I've been coming to these meetings regularly is the controversial issue of the town center. I'm not for or against it. I just seen that it's been controversial, and city staff has felt the impacts of that, and there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of subbing things out. Things move a lot slower because of all the public opinion one way or another, and it just moves slower. I put in for a docket request. I don't remember now. It's been 2 or 3 years, but it's at least been 2 years for me waiting for a town center to wrap up, to even get my name mentioned. And so we'll see if my docket request ever makes it across this dais. But my whole point is like, if we could like take all these parking lot items, which we used to have on our agenda, and actually like work those items, I think we could rebuild staff. The commissions, holy cow, like I can't even tell you how much talent you have on your commissions, especially I go to every planning commission meeting or watch them, and like gobs of talent that is sitting there with meetings canceled constantly through last year. I think Thursday's meeting is just like a, very one item agenda. I mean, if we could load those guys up, like they don't have to campaign. They don't have to worry about city finances, all this stuff that you guys have to worry about, the Arts Commission, the Parks Commission. All they have to worry about is the Planning Commission. Like, you have like gobs of talent just waiting on all your commissions. So I'm hoping out of this retreat that pick all the items you agree on, maybe table the ones you don't agree on, and build some positive momentum, and then utilize your commissions to carry out your agenda. And I look forward to that. I look forward to having a parking lot on our long-term plan for you guys and for everyone else, just so we can start getting our way through stuff and building that positive momentum. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Up next is Christy Santo Domingo, and then Julie Hahn.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Christy Santo Domingo, and I've been a public school teacher for nearly 20 years. I currently teach in the Issaquah School District, and I'm here tonight to ask for your support for the Issaquah School District levies. These renewal levies are essential to the day-to-day operation of our schools and to the well-being of our students and staff. As you know, the state does not fully fund public education, leaving a gap that requires local levy funding, and that funding supports hundreds of staff positions that directly affect instructional support, student safety, health services, and clean functioning schools. As an educator, I see the positive impact of the EP&O levy firsthand. I see it when students have access to counselors, when they need to see the school nurse, when they receive special education services, and when students can participate in athletics and activities that keep them connected and engaged. The capital levy maintains their existing buildings, funding critical repairs, safety upgrades, and technology. It's not new construction. The transportation levy ensures students can get to and from school safely and reliably, and the electric buses that are being proposed aligns with the Sammamish Climate Action Plan. If these levies do not pass, the outcome would be catastrophic for our schools, resulting in deep cuts to staff, services, and programs that students and families rely on every single day. These are renewal levies. They maintain the current tax rate. Ballots have already arrived, and I hope that the community can turn them in at a drop box by Tuesday, February 10th at 8 p.m. Or if they're going to mail them, they need to be mailed by this Friday, so they're postmarked by February 10th. A yes vote means stable schools, supported educators and staff, and safe, welcoming learning environments for our students. I respectfully ask the City Council to support these levies and stand with our students, families, and educators. Strong schools mean strong communities. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to public education.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Julie Hahn, followed by Ryan Goodwin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Julie Hahn, and I am the CEO of the Sammamish Chamber, and I came to give you an update of what we're doing. So good evening, Mayor Amato and council members, and a special welcome to our new members of the Sammamish City Council. Congratulations and thank you for your service. The Sammamish Chamber of Commerce looks forward to continuing our partnership to support a strong local economy and a connected community. 2025 was a foundational year for the Chamber. We developed our 3-year strategic plan in partnership with Leadology, a Sammamish-based leadership development company that supports nonprofit and volunteer leaders. Together, we built a clear roadmap for the future. Our new mission is to empower local businesses to grow through connection, collaboration, and community. Our vision is a thriving, connected business community that drives sustainable growth and creates lasting impact. Over the next 3 years, our work is guided by 4 priorities: grow, connect, engage, and empower. We paired these with measurable SMART goals and aligned our chamber committees to execute them. So this plan is just not aspirational, it's actionable. Looking ahead to 2026, we have several exciting community events. On March 28th, we're hosting a Connect for Good nonprofit expo at the Sammamish Presbyterian Church from 10 to 2, welcoming 30 local nonprofits so the community can meet them, learn their missions, and find ways to support them through volunteering, donations, and sponsorships. On April 23rd, we'll host our annual Women's Conference. This is our 3rd year. It's called Beyond the Hustle, Success Built on Purpose, Not Pressure, with 4 dynamic women speakers. 2 of them are local to Sammamish. On May 6th, the Sammamish Farmers Market is going to return. We are deeply grateful to the City of Sammamish for your continued support as our title sponsor, helping us sustain one of the city's most signature community events. We are also adding a special market day on June 17th to celebrate the 2026 World Cup, including a soccer-themed activities and a kids scavenger hunt tied to our Power Produce program, sponsored by TLC Montessori. Each kid receives $2 produce voucher, and participation grew from 300 kids in 2024 to 800 in 2025. And on Tuesday, July 28th, we'll host our Sammamish Block Party at the Sammamish Presbyterian Church parking lot from 5 to 8 p.m. You will be able to find all this information on our website, but I want to thank you for your partnership with the Chamber. We truly couldn't do this work without the city's support. Together, we're here to support local businesses, strengthen our economy, and give back to the Sammamish community. Thank you
For your comments. Ryan Goodwin, followed by Melanie Barnes.
Hi, good evening, council members. I'm going to have to do like the gentleman didn't hold this up. My name is Ryan. I live on 223rd Avenue in Southeast 18th Court. Some of you may recognize my name. I have been emailing for the last 6 years, following up and advocating for the issue that I come to speak to you guys about tonight. I'm also a working mom of 2 very young kids, and I'm here because our street has reached a breaking point, literally. What started as potholes has now become a sinkhole on the only way in and out of our neighborhood. It was temporarily patched, and it is already sinking again. Residents on 223rd Avenue in Southeast 18th Court have been advocating for improvements since 2019. Over and over, we've been told the same things. It's on a list, it's part of a future plan, it's being studied. And my personal favorite in writing from a city employee, your road is in the bottom 10% and therefore cannot be prioritized. Meanwhile, the road has steadily deteriorated. A city engineer who visited our street recently described it as one of the worst roads in Sammamish. That didn't surprise any of us who live here. It's confirmed by what we see every single day. 223rd Avenue and Southeast 18th Court are not just residential streets. They function as pedestrian corridor to Big Rock Park, and we have no sidewalks. Children walk these streets every day to get to their school bus. Parents walk them, families walk them, people push strollers on them. With no sidewalks, pedestrians are forced into the roadway, now alongside deep potholes and a failing patch over a sinkhole. This is no longer a quality of life issue. It is a safety issue and a liability issue. Because of how long action has been delayed, these streets are now approaching the point where a simple grind and overlay may not be possible. Continued deferral risks pushing this into a full reconstruction, bringing this up to code with stormwater sewage, which is far more disruptive and far more expensive for the city. Timely intervention could have prevented this, and immediate action now could still limit further damage. We understand the city has a new equity component to the pavement plan. I love equity. But equity should not come at the expense of immediate action, and 223rd Avenue and Southeast 18th Court require action now. How is it equitable that older neighborhoods with visibly failing infrastructure are repeatedly deferred while new developments receive timely, high-quality road improvements? Equity should include caring for communities that have been here for decades, not just ones that are newly built. I am asking the council to treat 223rd Avenue and Southeast 18th Court as an urgent priority, not a long-term or to-be-determined project. Our neighborhood has been patient. We have followed the process. We have done our part. We have done more than our part. Now we need the city to do its part before a preventable accident happens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Melanie Barnes, followed by Heather Murphy-Rains.
Hello, Melanie Barnes, neighbor of Ryan Goodwin, so you're going to hear a lot of repeats, but here to discuss and address what feels like a lack of oversight on right-of-way permits on my street, 223rd and Southeast 18th Court. I also have worked a full day. I'm a mother. I have motherly duties when I get home, so as much as I'm happy to be an involved community member, I would prefer not to be here, but feel like it's reached a point where I need to be here. Since a developer has been allowed to start a build of a home on our street, which is on a lot that is mostly designated wetland, we have seen significant mature trees being removed unsafely and without the proper permit. This was with a city inspector on site. And we've watched our road deteriorate to seemingly appease the developer who's building a home on our street rather than keep a maintained street for the taxpayers that currently live there. The developer has continually been allowed to really destroy the street, as Ryan said, and I just cannot understand why they haven't been held to a quality standard or minimum with their repairs. Original repairs are failing, the road is sinking, and they just keep leaving mounds of unfinished asphalt each and every time, which feels like it has to be intentionally bad. To reiterate what Ryan said about the condition of our street is a liability. I have a husband who recently sustained an injury that left him with a disability. He was in a wheelchair for a long time, learning to walk again. In the meantime, we had a dog we were putting down. He was determined to take that dog on a walk. In order to be pushed in a wheelchair on our street, he had to take extra narcotic pain meds. It's that bad. Many trip hazards are left, leaving our road a risk for him to relearn to walk on, and our children to walk to school on. Our children walk on this road
without sidewalks, as Ryan said, are forced to walk in the middle of the road, again opening the city up to unnecessary risk and liability. I am requesting action or a plan for better oversight when it comes to work in the city's public space, as well as a plan for our road while there is still time to overlay rather than have to grind the street. There have been many emails back and forth, and I look forward to the Public Works Department being held accountable and responding to us with their plan for our street and permit oversight going forward. And we welcome any one of you to please drive down our street at the posted speed, holding a cup of coffee, and see how that goes for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Deputy City Manager, we've seen a lot of email traffic on this, and it's hard to decipher where we've been and where we're at. If we could please have a briefing on this so we know where we stand and know what kind of action we can take, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Murphy Rains, followed by Bo Rains.
Heather Murphy Rains, 20-year resident of Sammamish, mother of 3, all raised in the Issaquah School District, and former PTA president and board member. I spoke to the Issaquah City Council last night. Tonight I'm here because Sammamish has real leverage and time is of the essence. I'm asking you to withhold or cancel any right-of-way permits required for High School 4 access roads and related transportation work until the Issaquah School District pauses, reassesses, and changes course on this project. This site sits within the Sammamish watershed. Clear cutting, grading, crumb rubber, astroturfed sports fields, and increased runoff threaten downstream water quality in tributaries like Laughing Jacobs Creek. These impacts do not stop at city boundaries. Sammamish absorbs them. The public was clear. 2 bond failures showed voters did not support this high school. ISD ignored that message, but compromise still exists if action is taken now. This site should be a true choice school, not a phase 1 build of a comprehensive high school with sports fields halted. A compact choice school placed on already cleared land portion of the parcel on the original college blueprint focused on health sciences or environmental sciences or technology could meet educational needs without destroying the intact ecosystem. A comprehensive high school model brings expansive sports fields, heavy grading, and permanent environmental damage. And once that land is cleared, that distinction disappears forever. Nearly 2,200 mature trees and 78% of the tree canopy are being removed from a living forest that functions as a carbon sink, wildlife corridor, preventing soil erosion and acting as a watershed buffer. A 100-year-old evergreen forest is not even one evergreen tree is not interchangeable with mitigation saplings planted later. What is happening on this site is just weeks away from being irreversible. It will turn into a Bambi scene, in my opinion. Animals fleeing chainsaws, spring nesting disrupted. It feels like Fern Gully meets Avatar meets Armageddon. Why is it always spring when wildlife and ecosystems are most vulnerable? This project creates serious traffic and emergency egress risks as well. High School 4 funnels vehicles into one of Sammamish's known choke points. Emergency access during evacuations of medical response is compromised. Remember, Issaquah may issue school permits, but Sammamish residents carry the congestion, the safety risks, and the infrastructure strain. Some call that being a bad neighbor, and I told Issaquah that last night. If this project directly impacts Sammamish traffic, safety, and watershed health, why is it not clearly reflected in Sammamish's transportation improvement program? If it is not on the tip, why are we being asked to absorb the consequences without planning or mitigation? Enrollment is declining. ISD has acknowledged a drop. We have 3K less students than when they first planned this. This council regularly opens meetings with a land acknowledgement honoring Indigenous people. Those words should mean something, so please stop this permit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have Bo Rains, followed by Paul Stickney.
Evening, Mayor, Council members. I'm Bo Rains, a 20-year Sammamish resident. I'm presenting these comments on behalf of Dr. Walter Perea, who's presently in Costa Rica. These comments were also shared with the Issaquah City Council last night. As many of you know, Wally is one of our region's leading environmentalists and has spent decades working to prevent the extinction of Lake Sammamish kokanee salmon. Here's Wally's statement. I'm very concerned about the negative impacts of the proposed Issaquah School District school project on our endangered Lake Sammamish kokanee salmon. ISD is continuing with plans to remove more than 2,100 trees and level land for the construction of a new high school, along with sports fields and related amenities, within the immediate watershed that supports Laughing Jacobs Creek. one of the 3 most important spawning streams for Lake Sammamish kokanee salmon. This extensive development will have detrimental impact on kokanee spawning. We're already observing negative effects from upstream development on this run, and the ISD project, as presently designed, will reduce it further. With the EIS approval now in place, ISD is moving forward without adequate mitigation. One practical way to significantly reduce environmental impacts would be for ISD to require the sharing of existing sports facilities. Shared facilities are already used successfully elsewhere. This is the approach ISD should be pursuing instead of clear-cutting and constructing additional fields that will only be used part-time. Shared facilities would also lower costs and benefit the taxpayers. The Issaquah School District's disregard for the survival of our endangered kokanee salmon is reprehensible. If ISD proceeds with this project as currently designed, it risks tarnishing Issaquah's reputation as a regional leader in salmon stewardship. At this point, the remaining obstacle appears to be the right-of-way permit across adjacent roads within the city of Sammamish. That permit has not yet been approved. I urge the Sammamish City Council and the City of Sammamish to withhold approval until the project is appropriately modified to address impacts to Laughing Jacob Creek and its kokanee salmon. Thank you for your attention in this very serious matter. I trust you'll do what is right to earn and maintain the confidence of Issaquah School District residents, parents, and students. As Salmon City and the host of Salmon Days, Issaquah must demonstrate that its commitment to salmon and their habit is reflected in action and not words alone. Signed, Dr. Wally Perea. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Paul Stickney, and that's it for people who've signed up in the room. If you are in council chambers and would like to make a public comment as Paul is talking, if you could please line up behind him and we can get you added. Thank you.
Hello, City Council members. Paul Stickney, Sammamish. Appreciate all the comments tonight, good comments tonight. Let's jump straight into some cruxes. It's time to use distinctive resolve and authentic foundations to lift our entire community to higher levels of thrive, vibe, thrill, and delight. Shift long-standing housing land use directions from TH to HST+. Set genuine CHI, A, B, and C housing targets in our comp plan and add 5,000 market rate housing units to meet alongside 2,100 affordable on a citywide scale. Our minimized 2,100 growth target was never affordable housing at first until King County overlaid 100% affordable housing on it. And our city has never set internal CHI housing target needs for our own community. 2,100 affordable housing regional growth target is roughly 25% of the 8,000 unit local A housing need factors. 5,000 B and C market rate, built primarily in centers, is roughly 25% of the 22,000 market rate homes in our city. If we actualize 7,100 housing units over 20 years, a quarter of our local workforce jobs would have the ability to stay here versus commuting. A quarter of local market rate homes in Sammamish have the ability to stay over a cycle of life. Student and transportation outcomes of doing 7,100 of these housing units would be under a third of the effects of 1999 to 2024 housing growth. Traffic has 3 general outcomes based on these land uses, from a 10% increase to no net change to a net decrease. Population increase, about 1.5 to 2 persons a unit, 11 to 14,000 people added, but negligible effects on the population increase due to demographics and internalization. Critical mass for transit is achieved, yielding useful, suitable, and effective systems. I'll spit out the S. So 2K affordable and 5K market rate are okay for our city. So I say yes to HST and ESS to add citywide housing imbalance market rate units, say yes to using those target numbers to inform town center, citywide numbers first, and then say yes to distinctive, authentic elevation of our
Thank you.
thrive, vibe, thrill, and delight.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, please state your name and your city of residence.
My name is, get this up. My name is Jay Sternoff, and I am a resident of the city of Sammamish. I'd like to start with a history of the residence area that I live. I live in Providence Point in Issaquah. In approximately 2005, the residents of Providence Point wanted a stoplight. And we were courted by the city of Sammamish and the city of Issaquah. And the city of Issaquah promised we would get a stoplight. Approximately 2018, we got a stoplight and we voted for Sammamish. I have had discussions with some of my neighbors, and if we could secede from the, got the stoplight from Issaquah. Talked to some of my neighbors, and if we could secede from the union and join Sammamish, the issue that I'm about to speak on might progress a little more quickly. With that said, I'd like to speak of a little bit of history of the area. That I have a letter in my hand to the Director of Capital Projects from the city of Sammamish. And I'm just going to outline it because I'm going to turn it in. But specifically, there were concerns about the high school campus that was going to go onto the property. That was written in September 4th, 2020. There were concerns about the school campus programming needs versus the capacity and what the site would contain. They were concerned about the campus access, the access that only has one access, where all the other high schools in this district have at least two from a safety standpoint and have separate transportation networks for the buses. Stormwater design, redirection of stormwater, and environmental impacts. This letter was written at the time and signed by Mayor Karen Mora of the city of Sammamish. With that said, there's now a discussion about the right-of-way permit for that school. And there are two considerations that the Sammamish or City Council needs to consider. And what I'd like to reference is state law is made clear about projects that cannot be approved without a public hearing. RCW 3577010 specifically states, local government shall perpetually and have available advanced plans looking to the future for not less than 6 years. This is called the Transportation Improvement Program. In the city of Sammamish and in the city of Issaquah as well, there is no reference to the Transportation Improvement Plan.
Thank you for your comments. If you have more, please email us at citycouncil@sammamish.us.
I was just going to.
I'm sorry, I've got to move on to the next person.
Okay.
But thank you.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say thank you, Mayor Amato and esteemed members of the council, and I'm going to hand this in so you can review. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could give it to the city clerk. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make public comment? Okay.
Hi, Denise Steele Darnell, resident of Sammamish. Wow, there's been a lot of issues. I'm sure all of your heads are spinning at this point, right? So just got to mention a couple of them. Number one, I love the idea of the smart postcard with the weighing of the garbage. I really hope you might look into that, and considering eventually switching to Allied Waste instead of Republic, because Allied seems to be a lot more environmentally forward. Number two, I really loved seeing the high school students with the walkout and the young gentleman that spoke about ICE. I think it's so important that our community's involved, and I love that all the students got to speak. My understanding, the city council members, different people were there, so thank you for being there, and I'm really glad it was student-led. And then number 3, I have to always speak for the trees because we live in this most amazing place that we cannot forget. And I agree with Heather that if we are talking about the land acknowledgement, we have to really be acknowledging the land by what we are doing, not just by what we are saying. I also really admire how much Providence Point and their residents have worked so hard. It's not just their forest next to them, yet they are trying so hard to protect that forest. And I understand there might need to be another high school, but I do think we need to take a pause and think about the fact that we are talking about over 2,000 trees that are going to get clear cut in that huge area. And isn't there a different way we could do it? Still have the high school, but looking at it a different way so that we can save the trees. That is one of our last biggest forests in our area. And even though it's called Issaquah, we all know that every single one of us in Sammamish drives by there all the time, and it's so much on the border. We're going to be really affected by it. And I also just think about all of the beautiful animals that we have there, and what are we really doing to protect our tree canopy and these beautiful forests that we all love and want to care for. So I just would like to be another person that speaks on behalf of the trees, and also really admire all that Providence Point has done, and hoping that you as a city council can look into it a little more and work cooperatively with the Issaquah City Council to try to save some of those trees. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anybody online?
We do. Per the reasonable accommodation policy, if you have pre-registered and wish to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. Only pre-registered public commenters may give comment at this time. If you've pre-registered and would like to give public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, the one person who pre-registered is not raising their hand.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that.
Sorry, now they have.
Okay,
One moment.
Then we will hear from them.
Soham, when you're ready.
Yeah, hi. This is my first time, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, good evening. And my name is Soham Pandey, and I'm a student at Skyline High School. And I'm the founder of a local student-led nonprofit called LAFI, or Legal Aid for Immigrants. And this is a nonprofit focused on helping underserved immigrants and navigate the complex American legal system and deliver justice. Tonight, I want to talk about language access in Sammamish and why it matters here in this city and what the city can do to meaningfully improve it. So firstly, let's talk about what policies are currently in place. Currently, Sammamish has 3 different policies talking about language and accessibility, which includes the Title VI non-discrimination policy that ensures that no one can be excluded from city programs on the basis of race, national origin, or limited English proficiency. The city also has a draft language access plan, which maintains on-call language interpretation services and coordinates with other jurisdictions to share translated materials. And in April 2025, the city also passed a resolution reaffirming the support for immigrant and refugee neighbors, directing staff to make services accessible without requiring immigration status and to adopt policies that support inclusion. So what are some problems that this system might face? Despite these steps, Sammamish does not yet have a formal adopted language access policy that clearly explains when and how language services will be provided and what documents must be translated and for who. The city's Title V annual report even notes that while a draft plan even notes that while a draft plan exists and an on-call service is maintained, no language assistance requests were reported for the council meetings in 2025. Not because there isn't a need, but likely because residents don't know how to access the services properly. So what can the city of Sammamish do to help people out? I respectfully propose that Sammamish adopts a formal language access policy, which will, one, define which city documents and services must be translated for the community, guarantee interpretation services at public meetings and for key services upon request. 3, provide clear instructions on the city's website and in printed materials about how to request translation and interpretation for those who need it. And lastly, train city staff on how to offer language assistance consistently. And this policy would help build upon Title VI and the city's existing inclusion commitments, turning good intentions into concrete, predictable action. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments.
That's all for pre-registered online comment.
Thank you. All right, up next we have approval of the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember O'Farrell and seconded. Councilmember Lamb?
Second.
Second, perfect. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And we have a proclamation for Black History Month, which will be read by Deputy Mayor Treen.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas for 100 years, the nation has recognized the achievements and contributions of Black Americans and their place in American history during the month of February. And whereas this year's Black History Month is centered around reflecting on the power of remembrance and how Black history commemorations have transformed identity, inspired progress, and preserved truth against erasure. And whereas Black History Month serves as a reminder of the significant contributions and brilliance of the Black community, and that Black history is also American history. And whereas in Sammamish, we recognize the achievements, brilliance, and contributions of Black residents, business owners, and leaders who continue to help shape and improve our community. Now, therefore, in recognition of the importance of Black history and achievements, I, Josh Amato, Mayor of the City of Sammamish, hereby proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black History Month.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have we'll be moving into a public hearing to consider amendments for Title 21. And first we'll have David Pyle and Avril Beatty give a presentation in just a moment.
So while Avril is joining as a panelist, which always takes a minute, so we appreciate your patience there. I'll go ahead and introduce the topic. So this evening we are considering a package of code amendments that was brought forward through the Planning Commission under the 2025 docket, which allowed for us to make amendments for clarity and to improve the outcomes of development regulations that were implemented as part of the 2024 comprehensive plan. And it looks like Avril has been able to share her screen, so I'll pass it off to her.
Good evening. Again, thank you for stalling. Avril Beatty, current Planning and Permit Center Manager. There's a lot of things in front of me. I appreciate your patience. Here we go. Okay, so we are back in front of you with the public hearing for some general Title 21 code amendments. I love it when technology cooperates and just disappears boxes from slideshows. This is part of an overall docket request that was started after the adoption of the comprehensive plan, and David will jump in if I get any of these details a little wonky. So after the comprehensive plan was adopted, in order to implement the comprehensive plan, we had put in a docket request to make some general code updates and changes and clarifications. So after we went through the required legislative review, we went to Planning Commission. We had some great discussions and feedback from Planning Commission. We made changes based on those discussions, presented them with a public hearing. They made their formal recommendation to the council. Council, you guys had a chance to discuss, and we took that discussion, and now we are back with a hopefully, knock on wood, final public hearing to adopt these changes. So this was a many-month overall process. So just wanted to let you know that as much as we enjoy doing this, it does take a bit of work. So here we are. And maybe I can't. It's frozen. Here we go. We'll do this. So just to quickly go through, we have changes that are just cleanups to take out things that were repealed by state legislation. We are adding the definition of cottage housing for a 1,500 square foot of living space unit. This would not include any garage space. This was a gap in our code. Accessory dwelling units, a small gap to further clarify the definition of accessory dwelling unit as being something that is a separate unit to be lived in from the primary unit on the property. Changing or providing some clarification on what an area-wide rezoning is, which goes through a legislative review and approval process as compared to the quasi-judicial rezoning process. So this is just to clarify that anything that was not or does not qualify for a quasi-judicial rezoning is automatically an area-wide rezoning, so that there wasn't any concern about it being a gray area in between. Updating the definition of unit lot so that it wasn't something that would require it to effectively be a single-family home, which sort of defeats the purpose of having this added for middle housing. Cleaning up regulations regarding public noticing and public comment periods. This allows all of these land use applications to have a 21-day comment period, and we're consistent across the board. Land use approvals would allow the submittal of a building permit application to be reviewed while a final plat or a final short plat is getting wrapped up. This would not allow issuance of any building permits. That could not occur and will not occur until a final plat or short plat is recorded and there are legal lots of record. Shoreline substantial development permits to go back to a type 2 from a type 4, so a decision to be done by staff with an appeal to the Shorelines Hearings Board instead of being to the hearing examiner. This will save a lot of time. Same regulations. I do want to point out that we did receive SEPA comments from the Snoqualmie tribe regarding this. They were concerned that the changing back to a type 2 would result in reviews not being as thorough or regulations not being applied to any, most of these are doc applications. However, we have a very robust review process. We have very long checklists for staff to review against. And so it's the same criteria, it's the same development standards, so none of that would be watered down, pun intended. And there's still the appealable to the Shorelines Hearings Board. So we understand, oh, yes?
I just want to clarify and also add, in addition to what Avril said, that the comment was really centered around a bit of the concern that this would diminish the requirements that shoreline development would be subject to. As Avril states, we're not proposing to change any of our development regulations. It's really the process by which the permit is reviewed and issued. They also indicated that they wanted to have assurance from the city that they would be continue to be treated as a sovereign tribe and as a partner to the city, and that they would receive notification for permit applications, et cetera. We're not proposing to change that part of the process. A type 4 and a type 2 both include a notice of application, both include a 21-day public comment period. Both include a generation of a staff report and issuance of, in the case of a type 4, a recommendation, in the case of a type 2, an issuance of a decision. and both include an appeal period on the city's final decision. Both appeals on the city's final decision. So in the case of a type 4, the city's final decision is made by the hearing examiner. In the case of a type 2, the city's final decision is made by the director or designee of RIL and her staff. That both appeals of the city's final decision go to the State Shorelines Hearings Board. So they all end up in the same place. The piece that's different is that there would not be a public hearing that would be held on, for example, a dock permit. This was changed back, I want to say, in 2016 or 2017 from a type 2 to a type 4 because of the East Lake Sammamish Trail. That trail was a very large project that required a shoreline substantial development permit. And for any of you that might have been here at the time in City Hall and participated in the hearing, there was a 2-day hearing simply because of the volume of public comment and public interest. So we made the wise decision, I think, to change that to allow for a local venue where people could show up and participate in that project and in that permit process. Since then, we have not had a need to have a hearing on a shoreline permit. And when we have these hearings, it's really staff, the applicant, and the examiner. I can't really recall any instances where we've had a hearing where anybody else has showed up. So it's really just an additional step in that process.
So the copies of letters that were provided to you were the comments from the tribe and the staff response back. And we did want to reassure them that in 2029, we will be required to provide an updated shoreline master program to the Department of Ecology. And in order to do so, we'll be kicking off in 2027 the work to bring the SMP updated, see where there's where we can apply best available science, look at what kind of development, how we want to control it along the shorelines. And this will involve extensive outreach with all of our residents and stakeholders and other agencies, including the tribe. And so we are looking forward to working with them early and often, so that way we can have consensus by all the people who are interested in our shoreline regulations, so that we can move forward and have something holistic and comprehensive, and that ecology will have no reason other than to adopt our ordinance. Would you like to add anything, David? Okay, just checking. All right, so this concurrency, the streamlining, this goes with the streamlining of the building permit applications to final plats, just to help things move along more quickly and allow a mild amount of parallel review between applications. Again, nothing issued until a final plat or final short plat is recorded. And then everyone's favorite, the building footprint regulations. We did work into the red line strike draft clarifications on the 1 time per building allowance of the 300 square feet. We, based on the general consensus from the council, keeping the language regarding how we're not going to be limiting the ground floor as accessed from the main entry, with all the details in the strike draft. We have, we've double checked with our cohorts in Public Works. Drainage review will always be triggered where drainage review needs to be triggered. It doesn't matter if you're adding 1 square foot or even just changing something on your site, those rules will always apply. And so this would not circumvent or supersede or any of the drainage regulations that are in place to help protect our sensitive areas. We love these illustrations. Here they are. And so, so as part of our public outreach, we've had support from residents. We have support from the master builders. We understand and appreciate the concern about drainage review. We look forward to working with the tribe whenever we get to update the Shoreline Master Program. And other than that, we didn't receive any SEPA comments or appeals. And we are in our 60-day review period with the, oh, it's closed. Great, fantastic. We have completed our 60-day review from Commerce, and as far as I know, we have not received any feedback from them on how well this is written. So if you have any questions, we are here to answer them.
Any questions? I guess we'll go this order. Okay, I've got Councilmember Stewart up.
Yeah, we got a public comment today from a resident about, and I don't know that we want to, crack this open to answer it, but just curious about the whole. We made a change to help with accessibility, right? To allow instead of the ratio, right, to allow people to have a single story. But she was talking about what about the additions and how our fee in lieu of will impact people who have multi-story homes today and may need to add on to a main floor as they want to age in place. And if there is anything we should or could try to do to address that. And I'm sorry, that was a very poorly worded question.
No.
But hopefully you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So I'll call it the Jan Bird comment.
Thank you.
That's the community member who provided the comment. And
Yes, it was.
the comment was focused on the fact that if you are owner of a home who have lived in the city for whatever period of time, in her case, a long period of time.
Yes.
And she is looking to retire into her home and to age in place in her home gracefully. She is looking at needing to do an addition on the first floor or on the right. I don't know if there's a split level, I think. So on the main living floor in order to allow for her to access the different amenities of the home. And in doing so, she would need to add on approximately 450 square feet, which, because the home is already larger than 1,500 square feet under our inclusionary affordable housing requirements, would trigger the requirement for an assessment of about a $15,000 in lieu fee payment towards affordable housing.
Right.
That is how the rules are currently set up. There is opportunity if the council was to direct staff to take this up as under the docket to further refine that. I know that's something we've worked on in the past in refinement of, and we would be happy to work on refining it again. The takeaway is that we do charge, or we do require participation for inclusionary affordable housing for all new development, including additions, when the addition results in the home being larger than 1,500 square feet. If it's already 1,500 square feet, the square footage of that addition is assessed a fee at $34.45 a square foot. I just want to be completely transparent.
Yep.
And there are opportunities to work through exemptions or ways, when it applies and doesn't apply. There's also the opportunity of the council to look at applying some form of a market factor to the fee if you chose to. There are other cities that are adopting a similar fee structure through inclusionary affordable housing requirements that have different fees. Each city is different. Each city has different land economics at play, different objectives, and we're happy to discuss that more if it's something that the council would want us to take on.
I'd love to understand more, and if the council also does, if there are already exemptions, exceptions that can be made for accessibility and things like that in certain circumstances, and if there are other cities that may have already addressed this, because I want to strike that balance, right? I don't want. I think what we're trying to discourage is if people are just adding on to already large homes and they're not really creating ADUs, that's what we want to kind of discourage. But at the same time, there are certainly these situations where we don't want to force someone to leave their longtime home if some, changes are necessary. So I don't know if something like that already exists, but I would be interested in maybe finding out more about that going forward so that we can address these types of issues.
Yeah, I guess there's two options. One is to try to make a motion now to direct the city manager to ask staff to take on evaluation of amendments in response to this public comment and other comments that any of you might have, or to ask the city manager to work with staff to come back with a presentation on the city's current rules related to inclusionary affordable housing, at which time you could then respond and direct the city manager to take on a code amendment. Given that we have the open docket that we're working under, it is an opportunity for us to continue to refine that code language. And we are not, we hear all sides of it from different members of the community. You know, we understand that affordable housing is important. We understand that housing product diversity is important. We want smaller units. We want units that provide for different people at different points in life cycles. We also want to respect property rights and ownership of residences in the city, and we're not trying to force people out financially at the same time. Those are all components of that conversation, and you know, we'd be happy to take up a dialogue with you all on that and with the community to find the right fit and amendments that we might want to take on.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think the most affordable home is often the one you already own. So we definitely don't want to do that. I think maybe I will hold on making a motion and confer with what we think the best option going forward is, because I don't know if we need a full-on presentation or not, but we can talk about that and certainly get back if that's acceptable to you, Mayor?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, because I think we're going to want more information. We just want to find the most efficient way to do it, and I don't want to make a motion that forces us down a particular path that may not be the most efficient one, but thank you.
Okay, we have Deputy Mayor.
Have too many buttons. I also have a couple of what I consider minor amendments that I would like to see, and I understand that it is not likely to be able to discuss those tonight and be able to move forward on them, but our current code has a pretty good section on wildlife habitat and wildlife, which is a subject near and dear to my heart and our residents. But it doesn't, and it has a long list of the birds and fish that are protected, but there's not a single mammal listed. And so I feel like that's an oversight, because clearly, you know, we've got salamanders and all those things, and those are valuable, and I love them. But I also appreciate the mammals we have in our city. So I would like staff to look at an amendment that would broaden the wildlife definition and make sure that we're going after the habitat that we're looking for. And like I said, the definition in there of the wildlife habitat is pretty good. But again, I'm not sure it's really clear about how you link the pieces of it together, and I know that's going to be challenging, but it would be nice to bring those back. And then there's another item that was that the staff brought as a code amendment in the original code that was adopted, addressing rezones from 1 acre to higher density based on the fact that there would be property next door that was a higher density. So clearly, you know, the intent was that there wasn't a huge impact from having that 1 acre zoning increased. But I would like to see the criteria that was originally proposed by staff to sort of mediate that and allow us to kind of glide into what this looks like, rather than right now we just have no requirements about it. If you're next to a higher density lot, you can apply for a higher density on your 1 acre lot. So I would like to see those original criteria brought back before us as well. So I guess I can, if there is there more conversation?
Well, you do have Councilmember Treen who just, Councilmember Treen?
Yeah, thanks, Councilmember, or Mayor Amato. Hey, David, just really quick could we also then, I don't know if this is a minor adjustment. So could we move to direct the city manager to remove the fee in lieu program completely as part of AIR?
So
I mean, that's a simple yes or no to me. I mean, so
well, you could move to have that brought forward as a code package, striking the fee in lieu component of the inclusionary affordable housing chapter,
but not a part of this. What we're doing here tonight.
Yeah, I want to highlight that within the code there is a process outlined for code amendments. SMC, sure. Yeah, so SMC 24A.10.020,
That's what I read.
sub item 2, C and D outline the steps by which code amendments are to take place. So the first step is it has to be docketed, and the city already went through the process of docketing code cleanup, right, to take place in 25 and 26 following the passage of the new comprehensive plan and the new implementing development regulations. We knew that we had a really good start and that we thought we got most of it right, but there were some things that would need fine tuning or adjustment in order to implement it and get the right outcomes, right?
Yeah.
So we have an open docket, and we've already been through one round of code amendment packages. One code amendment package has been brought forward and adopted by the council. This is the second code amendment package under that docket that we are bringing forward for code cleanup and code refinement. And if you wanted to, you could make a motion, and if you had 3 friends supporting that motion, you could direct us to take on a third code amendment package that would include whatever it is that you wanted to be considered as code amendments that need to be refinements, that need to be adding clarity, and that really are related to the implementation of our comp plan and our development regulations. That would then allow the Planning Commission to take up review of that. It would allow staff to bring forward draft language, work with community members, work with interested parties to try to refine the language, bring it forward through the Planning Commission. They'd make a recommendation to the council. We'd bring it forward to the council. Council would review it, hold a public hearing. We'd do SEPA. There'd be commerce notification. There'd be all the steps that we have to take. And ultimately, that would result in a code package with a proposed ordinance landing on the dais here, where you could consider that as part of a public hearing, just like tonight, with this second code package.
So third code package, I guess, because this is the second one, so I get that. So so next question, thank you. So the next question I had was, this is just for, I thought we had already language in our code that identified wildlife and it included mammals. So is that true that I mean, I've read code 6 years now. I don't know when I read it, so I'm not going to say I'm perfect on my memory here, but, you know, I thought we already had language prior to this comp plan that our code actually already addressed the issue of the type of animals that live in the city, and that there was a full list of those animals, because I even provided that back, I can't even remember if that was 2022 or 2021 even. So
I did a deep dive into our development regulations recently, and looked at the origin of our critical areas rules, our habitat rules, and how they correspond with other development regulations and how over time they've evolved. So with Ordinance 99-3 from 1999, that's the original adopting ordinance of our development regulations, there was the inclusion of a habitat section. However, it did not call out specific species, nor did it call out mammals. It was again amended, I want to say, in 2013. I actually have an email to myself with some notes on these things, but I think it was amended in 2013, where it was again amended to add some additional language about habitat, but there was not a list of species of local importance included. Then it was amended again, I think in 2014, just right after that, where there was again not a list of species of local importance included. With this 2024, December 2024, effective January 1, 2025 rule set, I think is it 2102? Is that what it is? 030? Yes. Code section, it's subsection W, which is fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas. We did, based on community feedback and guidance from the council, add an entire section related to species of local importance that includes a very long list of habitat, or excuse me, species. So in order for property to be regulated, or a feature in the landscape to be regulated as a habitat feature, it needs to meet one of the requirements listed in subsection W1A. And you'll see that, or excuse me, W1, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's a whole long list of things that would qualify. The challenge with habitat, and I want to be really clear about this, is that it is qualitative, it's a bit subjective, it is people disagree on it, having been around that world in a prior career. And unlike a wetland, which has a boundary that you can delineate following an adopted manual, or a stream, which has an ordinary high water mark, or a floodplain, which has a base flood elevation, or a slope, which can be delineated using survey technique, you cannot readily identify the boundary of habitat. So in that sense, it is a bit challenging for us to implement. It does result in conflict. It does result in, when we try to apply it, differing professionals arguing over who's right. And we don't have a habitat biologist on staff. We have an on-call consultant that is an extension of staff. It does result in applications and permits taking longer, confusion, et cetera. So if we were to amend that section in the code, we would want to take great care to make sure that whatever it is we do is something that can be implemented and is legally defensible should we end up in front of a hearing examiner or superior court.
And so then it seems to me that, and I'm going to stop here because it gets off the subject matter, but then wildlife corridors would be one of those solutions, because the very list of things you just said that we are defensible already would actually create in this city, because of its character and quality of life here, and topography, would actually fit into the wildlife habitat that you're describing. So
they would, and that's generally how the code is structured. I think there's opportunity for some enhancements. We've made it a long way. We've evolved a lot. So get across the finish line, maybe there are some additional enhancements that could be made.
Thank you, David Pyle. Thank you, Mayor Amato.
Thank you. Is there anyone else before I jump in with a question? Okay, so it sounds like we have some interest in potentially adding some more items to your to-do list, maybe one, maybe two. I'm curious if we give you, what would be the most efficient way for us to do this? It sounds like we have something with wildlife habitat, we have something maybe with fee and lieu. If we gave you some direction tonight and then in 2 weeks gave you more direction, we'd be going in fits and starts. So kind of help me understand what that process looks like, and does it make more sense to give you an idea of what we'd like to do? You come back and give us cadencing, costs, things like that.
So I heard three things, right? There's the habitat, the rezone criteria, and the fee and lieu for additions and for aging in place and those accessibility issues. So, we could, if there was a motion tonight and there were three supporting friends that directed the city manager to have staff add to the work plan those three things, we would then probably do some research, come back to the planning commission, have them give us some feedback, probably check in with the council, want to make sure we're on the right track. And then we would move into the official process with the planning commission on those items. We would carry them forward as a package because it's easier for us to do work that way, rather than one-offing each of them. Just there's more meetings and more work. That's one option. Another option is if there's one of those or two of those that you wanted to bring forward with a motion with three friends to direct the city manager to add it to the staff work plan, we could then take that on. Or if you wanted us to do some research and come back and you wanted to just generally recommend to the city manager that these items be brought back forward to the council within due time, that we could do some research, prepare a short presentation, have a conversation about it, and then get a refined direction on which ones you wanted us to move forward with. That's another option. Understanding that right now is actually a good time to move things through the planning commission, because I don't know what's going to come out of Saturday's event, but our planning commission calendar is fairly open because we are awaiting direction on what the work plan will look like. So if you wanted us to load some of this stuff into that agenda, we could do that. knowing that as other work appears, that agenda tends to fill up.
Okay. Personally, I guess I lean maybe towards your last option, and I also think the Planning Commission has been on the front lines of doing this, and they probably have some ideas of other things that need to be added to this list. And so hearing from them and having them help direct or suggest what we add to this would, I think, be beneficial. They've had their pencils on this code for quite a while. So anyway, that's my thoughts. We've got, did you still have something to?
I was just going to mention that long list still does not have any mammals. That's all.
Councilmember Stewart, did you?
I was going to try to formulate a motion for the city manager, but I'm not sure that I have the clarity that the city manager would appreciate. Because for the fee in lieu of adjustments, right? I think at this point I don't have I want to make an amendment. It's more, I think we need information and research. So I don't know if you'd like me to make a motion, Deputy City Manager, or what would you prefer?
If I could, I think that myself and staff have, assuming we get the head nods, I'm going to repeat back what I've heard generally, right? And you can see if this is consensus, and then that would be sufficient for us to come back. So one is the fee in lieu, right? So can we identify some potential exemptions, right, that it would allow folks in limited circumstances, right, to add on to their homes for things like aging in place or other similar scenarios. So let us look at that. That would be the first thing I heard.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
The second thing I heard was the habitat issue, right? And I want to be really clear, adding mammals to the list.
I just want to also, though, add that salamanders are actually not mammals.
They're on the list.
Oh, okay.
Of that, I'm not going to weigh in. And then the other thing that I heard was the rezone issue and taking a look at the changes that were made fairly recently, right, in terms of properties, 1 acre properties that were contiguous to higher zoned areas, what those changes were and whether or not we want to revisit those. So those were the three that I heard. And what I would propose is that we come back and do more of a presentation of sort of an if-then type of a thing, so that then for each of those specifically, you could hone in more with more council direction about next steps.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just on the fee in lieu, just make sure that we consider single lot, plat, short plats to age in place.
Any other council members? The only thing I would add is just I would broaden the fee in lieu. I think it was really narrow in what you described. Just broaden it to what the Planning Commission thinks after looking at it to get their recommendation. If other council members are okay with that, and then generally just going back to the Planning Commission and asking them for their input also for things for us to consider. Good. No objections to that? Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any final questions? Okay, with that, we will open the public hearing. I apologize, David. Did you have something else to say?
So that's right. We still have to do that.
Oh, okay. I thought I jumped the gun.
Mental note to add that slide the next time we have a public hearing. Thanks.
Okay, up first for public hearing is Mary Wichter, and followed by her is Doria Holbrook, and you have 3 minutes, and at 3 minutes I'll begin to cut you off. Thank you. I know, that would be way better than me interrupting people.
Good evening, Council. Mary Wichter, Sammamish, 25 years. Just first of all, I think David had said, Director Pyle had said, there could be a code package 1, 2, and 3. I know with development regulations, there was a development regulations phase 1, which was small and quick at the end of some night that somebody was in the bathroom and missed it. And then there was development regulations phase 2, which had a lot of thoroughness to go through. And then there is a development regulations phase 3, which hasn't come forward yet. So I'd imagine kind of what we have here with your items covered, it seems like those could pass through, because it seems like the things that they're bringing up, which are great, are kind of a new set of things. So being that I got my frequent flyer card for doing dockets, I still have a 2019 one on septic to sewer hanging out there. They do take a while. So I wouldn't want these to get held up, because I think there are some people that currently have their building plans in review and like it's affecting what they're doing. So in fairness to them, I think allowing it to move ahead. Also, thank you very much for that drainage matters and drainage counts comments that I'll be done, because I've been doing stormwater since 2013 when there were problems in Inglewood and Tamarack. I just wanted to cover a few things. It really matters where you're located and what you're going to do. If you're on the lake down, it's different than being on Pine or Beaver Lake. If you're in the critical areas, which are really slopey, you're going to be really limited on things you can do. So whenever people say, oh, you get an exemption for 1,000 square feet or exemption for 300 feet, I still think you need to think about what you're doing. Critical drainage areas are a little bit different than critical areas. And we have drainage review at 0 square feet if you happen to be in the historic plats of Tamarack or Inglewood, at 200 square feet if you happen to be around lakes, and then 500 square feet, and I can't actually remember the 3 categories, but I did forward you the flow chart from the stormwater design manual that was passed originally in 2017 and updated in 2018. Also, we've talked a lot about trees. I know that when you're looking at review permits, you can look and you can use the King County IMAP. They have different aerials and you can find out when trees were taken out at certain times. So I think that should be something that is looked at. And also you can look at your existing impervious surface. A lot of times people will add gravel and add patios and add porches and things. And if they've already done that, they shouldn't be getting like big things to do again. And then also, if you've had a drainage review in the past, it would be different than somebody that's never had a drainage review. And there's certain conditions that you need to look at the condition of what's there and what's the capability for it to be able to take more. So anyway, so I'm glad that the drainage review will be looked at as normal, because that's super important. Just to let people know it's not 300 freebie, it's 300 and see what it counts against that you already have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have Doria Holbrook, followed by James Eastman.
Hi, City Council. Thank you guys for having us. I am here tonight to support the code change recommendation that would change the existing building footprint, max square footage from 3,000 square feet to just the upper floors only. The existing max building footprint is too restrictive, and if left in place, it would force unnecessary workarounds like these multi-building complexes connected by breezeways that are just not natural and in character for our community. My husband and I moved to Sammamish in 2015 over from Seattle. We had just gotten married and we wanted to raise a family. We now have 3 kids. They're 5, 7, and 9. And we have 9 chickens too, which is another reason we love it out here. And we really want to prioritize a floor plan that allows accessibility for our family. My parents are aging, and we need to make sure that we have a home that can accommodate them as they age with us and they can no longer live in their own home. And the only way for us to do that is with a single floor living. My nephew also has cerebral palsy and has access limitations, but unfortunately, there's no way for me to create a home, even when he visits, once a month, that's fully inclusive under these regulations. And so being able to have a place where our whole family can congregate is really important to the life that we want to live. So our dream property, it's 4 acres. It's right off of Rock Meadow Equestrian Center. It was on the market for over a year and a half because nobody wanted to develop it. And so we bought it. It's an old horse ranch. It's got a beautiful wetland on it. And we're excited to preserve that as part of the community. But just as we were about to move forward with our design, 3 months later, the code changed and now our dreams were crushed, which is why we've been coming back time and time again, asking you to please please consider this amendment. And as David Pyle said in our last city council meeting, rather than just trying to find workarounds, let's just fix the code and do what's right for the people that live here today. And just huge thank you to David and Avril. They have been absolutely incredible partners and counselors and spending time with us throughout this process. So just kudos to them and take good care of them. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much. James Eastman, followed by Eileen Fitzgerald. And if there's anyone who did not sign up and in the room and would like to speak, please start lining up by the speaker.
James Eastman, East Lake Sammamish Parkway. I was going to start off and poke David and Avril on getting in line for the docket request, but Mary beat me to it by 5 years. But then I was going to have to also eat my words because I get up here and I run my mouth and I complain that you guys, and they pass stuff and it's not quite right. And they say, oh, we'll get back to that later. We'll fix this later. And then they never fix it. And like tonight's public hearing, this is textbook, like how things should run in the city. This is perfect. We passed this code. Some things went right. I remember sitting down with Avril and David on this middle housing, and I couldn't understand like why we had detached squares in our middle housing code and that not be like a detached unit, because I thought cottage housing was only allowed in R1 because that's where the code is. And I was like, so we can have detached units? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, how big they can be, you know, I started like asking questions, and then David did the director's interpretation like a week or two later, and then it got shot back and put on the docket. The planning commission input on this, and especially the 3,000 square foot. I mean, that was spirited discussion. Go back and watch the videos if you care, but I mean, that's how this should work. Great discussion. I don't know if these two were the genius or him or maybe somebody else, but I don't know who thought of like this second story solution. Like that was like a good fix to the problem, which was, the middle housing caused us to pass this. We're looking to, limit bulk and scale, and like that was genius. I will say though that Avril started out and she said with garage, like we're constantly having to say with garage now because we passed this far last year, maybe 2 years ago, and that's without the garage. So every time I read code, I'm like with or without, like I can't ever figure it out on everything, and it drives me nuts. My brain just can't handle it. So I don't know if we can create a new definition so everyone knows whenever we're talking square footage with or without garage. That would be a recommendation. Also, eventually I'd like to see us allow people to go down into underground for things, but that's another conversation for another day. These guys, I mean, go pull up the development activity map and read through an application. There's like 28 attachments on any given submittal, and they're incredibly thorough. I mean, it'll blow your mind how thorough they are. And you think, man, that is why like we gotta like cut down review times, like because the amount of work necessary for them to do a review is off the charts thorough. So this whole SSDP, like let's cut that out. That's not necessary. They don't need to have all that extra public hearing, the hearing examiner, all that extra stuff.
Thank you.
To take up their time. So I highly recommend these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Fitzgerald.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing for me to speak tonight. My name is Eileen Fitzgerald, and I'm here tonight to express my support for the Planning Commission's proposed changes to SMC Title 21 regarding district standards for residential density and dimensions. My husband and I own a home in the Waverly Hills neighborhood, which we've lived in for the past 25 years, and which we'd hoped was going to be our forever home. Unfortunately, last year my husband had a health scare, and he ended up having a triple bypass. And so after several complications and 14 days in the ICU, he came home for a very, very lengthy recovery. And that's when we realized that if we wanted to stay in our home, we needed to make some changes. The good thing is that our home is a daylight basement, which means that we can live on our top floor and not have to go down to the bottom floor. But we're limited on outdoor space, so our plan was to extend our deck and extend the roof just a little bit to allow for a two-season area and allow some outdoor space. Unfortunately, after hiring an architect and submitting our permit, we learned that due to last year's change, limiting all residential homes to no more than 3,000 square feet and no more than 40% hardscape coverage, we were not allowed to do a thing. In fact, our home couldn't even be built under today's ordinance. So we went into research mode, and through that process, we met the wonderful David Pyle and the wonderful Avril Beatty, who actually took the time to meet with us and explain how this ruling had come to be, and explain that the city was trying to solve a larger issue, and this was an unintended consequence. The Planning Commission proposed changes that remove restrictions on primary entry floor size, along with their other proposed changes in their packet tonight, would strike a balanced approach between maintaining the city's intent around scale and neighborhood character, while better reflecting how homes are designed and accessed today. These changes would still allow you to protect against oversized middle housing development, but would also allow property owners flexibility to build and renovate their homes to meet their specific needs. In closing, I'd like to thank the City Council for listening to your residents and for your willingness to modify legislation that is causing harmful repercussions. I'd like to thank you for having such wonderful city employees, because they truly have helped us, people like me who knew nothing about this whole process, learn the process and actually think that maybe we have, some hand in making some changes. And what the gentleman said earlier about the talent on the Planning Commission meeting, that was phenomenal experience as well. Phenomenal talent there. And we love living in Sammamish. We want to stay here forever, and what hopefully is going to be, if you approve this tonight, our forever home. And most importantly, go Hawks.
Thank you very much.
Once again, Upinder Dinsa. I live right here on the lake. My project has been going on for about 5 years because of code changes, goes up and down, up and down. I'm very happy to see what's happening now. And I'm also one of those who's a great fan of these two, as well as their staff. Very helpful. Only thing I would have liked is if you had taken the garages out of your calculation. Each time, you have limited amount of lots. I am in the process of building one more. I built about 10 homes in Sammamish. I live in Sammamish. I invest in Sammamish. Strong supporter of Seahawks. But my point was that this is definitely a step in the right direction, because each year I've seen my home keep getting smaller and smaller, the one that I'm supposed to build. And pretty soon, with the costs going up, affordability goes away. And most people who are living on the lake itself, they would like to have a decent sized home. So this is in the right direction, but I would hope that at some point you would rechange the code and exclude the garages. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the room, do we have anyone who has signed up online?
No online public comment.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing. And at this moment, is there a motion to approve the ordinance found as Exhibit 1 in the packet amending Title 21 of the Sammamish Municipal Code as presented in Attachment A to the ordinance?
I move that we approve the ordinance found as Exhibit 1 in packet amending Title 21 of the Sammamish Municipal Code as presented in Attachment A to the ordinance.
It's been moved. Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I'll just echo a thank you to our amazing staff. And thank you for being so thorough. I know that it feels like we're always having to make updates, but the world is constantly changing, and we as a city inherited a little bit of a mishmash, and it's taken a long time to sort that out. So really appreciate all of your work and attention to the detail.
All right, no other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. One thing I did want to clarify from the public comment, Mr. Eastman, was that actually there is an allowance for cottages to go below ground. It's found in 21.04.030, item Z8, and it allows for semi-daylight basements in cottages to not be counted towards the floor area of a cottage. So that is something that we hope will be utilized on slopes. Yeah, that's only in the R1. It's in the MHO1 overlay. So just want to clarify that.
What a fun clarification. Thank you,
And,
David.
and also, we keep the garage calculations different just for job security. Keep everybody on their toes.
So before you go, I just want to say, Avril and David, thank you and your team for all the work you did. I know there's someone in the back who is also involved in the Planning Commission as well. This was clearly a lot of effort to get this through, and you've clearly treated the residents who've come before you with empathy. So that's not unrecognized and very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, up next is new business. We'll be discussing impact fees and fee scaling, and that'll be David Pyle and his team.
So again, community development, and it'll take us a minute to transition and to promote individuals to allow for them to take on panelist status. And looks like Evan also has to plug in his computer, as I did.
We'll find something to do.
So this item is, or the next item on the agenda is a presentation from staff and from our consultant FCS related to the city's efforts to update our impact fees. Evan has a well-crafted presentation and will be able to take comment. There is no action needed of the council this evening aside from feedback, which will enable the Planning Commission to proceed with final review and public hearing.
Thank you, David. Thank you, City Council. And I would like to take a second just to introduce to my right, John Ghilarducci. Nice. With FCS, he's on the consultant team who's been leading the work and really doing the development of our formulas and impact fees. So John and Luke on his team are here to answer any more technical questions that you might have tonight. So for the presentation, we'll first start at an overview of what impact fees are and talk briefly about why we're updating them. And then we'll shift into an impact fee discussion. And we developed sort of a framework to have this discussion in five kind of distinct parts. First, we'll look at the formulas that were created to calculate the fees. Then we'll discuss the inputs that get fed into the fees. When you combine those two, when you have the formulas and inputs, you generate a fee amount. So we'll briefly touch on that. And then shift towards the policy decisions that you all have in front of you regarding impact fees, and then briefly touch on the administration portion. So to start out, what are impact fees? Impact fees are a one-time charge on new development that help offset the costs of expanding the system's infrastructure to support new growth. They're used to fund capacity adding projects identified in the capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan and help us maintain our adopted levels of service. The state allows for cities and jurisdictions to collect impact fees for parks, schools, transportation systems, and fire. Sammamish, we collect for parks, transportation, and schools. And I'll just pause here to note that while we collect school impact fees, it's up to the districts and the county to work together to develop their own formulas and methodology and fee amounts. So we're really just a pass-through entity for school impact fees. The RCW gives cities the authority to collect impact fees under 8202.050 through 110. It says that cities that plan under the Growth Management Act may choose to collect impact fees to fund a proportionate share of the cost of capacity adding system improvements. And I want to pause and just highlight the may. It's not a requirement that cities collect impact fees. It's a local policy decision, and that's something we'll discuss more later on. The RCW also makes clear that system improvements must be funded by a balance of public funds and impact fees. You can't just solely rely on impact fees for these projects. And lastly, one big focus of the work we're doing with FCS is to ensure that our impact fee program is legally defensible. We need to be able to demonstrate that there's a reasonable connection between new development and the need for additional public facilities, and that impact fees are proportionate to the development share of the impact created. So we'll take a second to look at where we currently are with our impact fees. Currently, our parks impact fee is around $6,700. Our streets impact fee is $14,200. And the chart on the right kind of shows how we stack up against neighboring and peer cities. But the real takeaway from this slide is that our current fees are essentially a flat fee. So whether you're developing a 1,000 square foot starter home or a 5,000 square foot home on the lakeshore, you're assessed the same fee amount. That brings us to why we are updating our impact fees. Senate Bill 5258, passed in 2023, requires that impact fees must now scale with the size of development. So more simply put, it says that smaller housing units need to be charged less fees, and larger housing units need to be charged higher impact fees. This is all part of the state's initiative to incentivize smaller housing units and to work to, make a dent in housing affordability. It's also a good time to update our impact fees with the adoption of our 2024 comprehensive plan and all the other planning work that included, such as the Transportation Master Plan, Climate Action Plan, so forth, the PROS plan. And also our impact fees haven't been updated since 2015, so they're kind of due for a checkup. So now that we've discussed the background, we'll move on to talking in a little bit more detail about the work we've been doing with FCS and walk through this kind of framework that we've put together. So we'll start out with the formula, which FCS has created for us using industry best practices, and it has developed a legally defensible methodology for calculating our impact fees. The second part, we'll take a look at, again, the inputs that are used to generate those fee amounts. And the thing to take away here is that these inputs are based on local policy decisions and capital planning efforts and local data sources. So we'll show some examples of that. Next are the actual fee amounts that are generated from number 1 and 2. So we'll look at what our updated fees are and how they scale. And then we'll go into the policy decisions and administration. So first up in the framework are the formulas, and up first is the transportation impact fee formula. And the numerator here, we have the eligible costs of capacity increasing projects divided by the growth in new person trip ends. And those two things are, again, those inputs that we discussed, and we'll get into a little bit more detail. But at a high level here is the framework for how we calculate the transportation impact fee. Next is the parks formula, which is a bit more complicated, but ultimately it starts in the upper left-hand corner looking at the existing value of the park system and the improvements the city's made. You then divide that by the population of the city to get a park's capital value per person. You use that amount with local policy assumptions that are derived from the comprehensive plan to develop a park value needed for growth. You then use more inputs from local policy decisions in the lower left-hand corner with the eligible capital facilities project list for parks. You make some adjustments based on other revenue sources and ultimately end up with a parks impact fee. So this slide shows an example of the inputs that go into the formulas. This is the project list comprised of the 2025 through 2030 Transportation Improvement Plan, as well as the 20-year project list that's in the Transportation Master Plan. Ultimately, the project lists, ultimately the projects included on these lists reflect local policy decisions and prioritization. It's worth noting that over the next couple of years, the Public Works team will be working with the council to update these lists to better reflect the adopted goals of the Transportation Master Plan and the Comprehensive Plan. And this will include adding projects to the list that reflect, for example, the new multimodal levels of service. So that work is coming, and you all will be very intimately involved into what goes on those updated lists. While what is included on the lists are important, it's not the focus of the work tonight. What really we're focusing on is the highlighted red box in the bottom right corner. This is one of the inputs that was plugged into our transportation fee formula. That was the numerator from the previous slide. And as I said, over time, the list will be updated to reflect the council's priorities, and the number in the red box will change. And at that time, we can rerun the formulas and produce a new impact fee that reflects those updated project lists. And I'll just pause here to just briefly mention, we got, the council received a letter from one of our planning commissioners about the inputs on the list and the projects and how they're prioritized. And I think it's a great comment and something that the council should definitely consider at the time when we update those lists through the Transportation Master Plan update. So it's a very good comment, and we wanted to note it here and say that there will be an opportunity for your policy decisions and your prioritization to be reflected on updated lists. And again, at that time, we can hit go, we can rerun the impact fees and generate an updated amount. This slide is the key input for the parks formula and is their 6-year capital project list. They have their own red box, which is down at the bottom, that represents the input that gets plugged into their formula. That brings us to the third component, which are the fees themselves. Again, the fees are generated running the inputs through the formulas. And when you do that, you get a per square foot fee of $3.13 per square foot for parks and $7.44 for transportation. FCS used regional occupancy data and local home size data to generate a minimum, maximum, and an average impact fee amount. Here's an updated look at how our fees compare to neighboring and peer cities, and shows how really similar our newly calculated fees are to our current fees. The next step is talking through the local policy decisions and how impact fees will be assessed. So jurisdictions can choose to assess none of or 100% of the maximum impact fee that's been calculated, and that is all very defensible and allowed with under the RCW. We can also consider waivers or reductions for things like affordable housing, ADUs, and additions. And should the council be concerned that impact fees are too high, the policy options here are tools that can be used to mitigate the financial impacts of impact fees on development. And one last thing to note is that, of course, these decisions come with trade-offs. While reducing impact fees may help things like generating new development, the infrastructure needed to support that new growth will still need funding to be built. Any reduction in impact fee revenues would need to be made up somewhere else. So just something to consider. Lastly, we get to impact fee administration, and this is done through the Sammamish Municipal Code. We're currently working with the Planning Commission to update that code and bring forward to the council what ultimately will be a repeal and replacement of our existing code. We want to make it more streamlined, clarify process, remove redundancies. So that's something that we're still working through with the Planning Commission, and we'll bring back to you when it's polished and ready, but you can look forward to that. And quickly, the Planning Commission has seen this 4 times with meetings still to come for a public hearing to recommend the code and the scaling fee amounts to the council. So once we hear from you tonight and make sure we get a head nod that we've moved in the right direction, we'll finish things up with the commission and then bring this back to you all for final adoption. So with that, I'll wrap up the presentation portion, and we'll leave it here for a discussion with the council. And really, it's around those policy options. Does the council want to assess impact fees at the 100% level, somewhere lower? And how would the council like to consider impact fees with affordable housing? So that is to frame up the policy discussion. But we also want to pause and take any questions you might have. I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, if you'd like to hit your buttons, if you have any questions. All right, up first we have Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Planning Commission, for all your work so far on this issue. I have watched 2 of the 4 meetings, and I also wanted to thank former Chair Bachmann for all his work on this issue. And that was his final meeting, and he was on Planning Commission a very long time. And so I want to publicly thank him for all his work on that issue. I just had a question on that, the list of all the projects, I'm talking about the transportation impact fees, that list, and they state the cost of a project, which differs, the amount, for example, say on the Sahali Way project, it says the total cost is 1.2 million, but then when you go at the transportation master plan, the cost is something like 32 million. So why the discrepancy in the cost there?
Well, I think, this is ours. Yeah. To the best of my knowledge, the issue is really the timing of when this list was developed and the timing of how that project has developed since. So the list we're looking at right now, I believe was adopted in June of 24, before much of that cost assessment work had been done. So again, when we go through the process of updating the TMP and recycling and updating what is included on these project lists, we'll capture the more accurate cost of a project like that, and then at which time we can rerun and recalculate our impact
so
fees.
we'll be going back and kind of redoing the total cost on this list.
Correct. Yep.
One of our recommendations would be that we do this every 2 years, off cycle to the budget, when we have a new CIP list or new CIP lists available for parks and transportation. And that the beauty of the way we're setting this up, and we're hopeful that this will work this way, and this is where we're collecting feedback and trying to identify flaws in it, is that we're setting it up so that the formula utilizes inputs, and that those inputs will change over time, right? Yeah. The inputs include the project lists, they include growth assumptions, census information, per household information, which will change over time as we age out as a community, demographics change, right? So the impact fees that go along with new units would therefore correspondingly change. So as long as we are updating our inputs with accurate new information, and we rerun the formula, and the formula is legally defensible, it will result in an updated fee that we can then apply.
Okay.
That's really the premise of this whole setup, if I got that right.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of the 2 questions you're putting there, how do we feel about it, the 100% going to like the maximum? I'm okay with the 100% maximum. I was wondering, though, about the question that the Planning Commission had posed to us about affordable housing and kind of waiving or reducing the fees to promote affordable housing. And I see that it's on 30% to AMI and less. Is that right? Was there a discussion with the Planning Commission about, say, the 50 to 80% or the 80% to AMI, that type of housing too, in terms of waiving or reducing the impact fee on those projects?
Yeah. Sort of the history of that discussion was they first started thinking that the deepest levels of affordability were the ones that should be publicly funded, because most of the funding for those types of projects would come from public dollars, so it just sort of made sense. And that the higher or the mid to higher end of affordable projects might still pay the full impact fee. At the last commission meeting, that sort of shifted, and they said, maybe let's consider some sort of waiver for those other levels of affordable projects. They've yet to land on sort of a final recommendation. So that will be part of the discussion yet to come. And we'd love to hear your feedback, and that can help their discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be kind of interested in that discussion, what would come out of that, to kind of see if there's anything more that we should be doing to encourage that kind of housing product to be built, but also then understanding what the financial implication is for the city when we do that, and trying to balance those two things, because this is one of the few revenue streams that the city has open to it, is in the kind of fees, impact fees it can charge for development. So I also don't want to cut that off to the city either. So trying to balance those two very important issues. So I would love to hear from the Planning Commission a bit more about that, because they can really have long conversations about that, and I appreciate that they do. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in that, understanding what would a reduced fee on projects like that, on the 50 to 80% or 80% to AMI projects, but also what would the financial implication be for our city and to our budgeting for that, and what that would reduce maybe our ability to move forward on some of our transportation projects.
That's great feedback, and we'll when we go to them for the next meeting, we'll try to figure out a way that we can help quantify, the impacts you'd be talking about to the revenue streams.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to highlight that we do currently allow, as part of our code, a reduction of impact fees for affordable housing projects at 80% and below. I think an 80% AMI project does allow for an 80% reduction in impact fees. I think that's what the code currently says. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what it is. And it is something that we have processed for almost all of our, I think all of our 80% AMI projects that have come through the city where there are units included.
Okay, awesome. And if that could be part of that conversation too, because I will be watching those meetings. So thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Just following up on that point, David, did you say that for currently projects under 80% AMI get 80% reduction in the impact fee? Shouldn't it be 20% reduction?
That is what I'm looking for, the code citation right now, but that is, having processed one of those in the last year, I do recall that it was 80% reduction for 80% AMI, and below it's at 80%. So I'll find that here if you give me a minute.
Okay. Well, I echo Councilmember O'Farrell's comments on the 100%. I'm supportive of that. It would be useful to see the information you asked. I understood that the formula references increases in capacity. So what happens with our bike and ped plan or other things that we're doing in transportation? Are those included in the projects that are going to be funded with impact fees? And how do you treat that as an increase in capacity?
Yes, so going forward, particularly with the updated lists that you'll be working through, multimodal projects will be included in future project lists. So those types of projects then, if they add capacity to existing systems, could be eligible for funding through the impact fee program. I'm trying to think of a good, I guess additional new sidewalks, new bike paths, new bike lanes added to increase capacity of those systems are types of projects that we might see coming. I hope I'm addressing your question. I'm not sure if I'm getting it all.
I can add one thing. In many cases, we will assume that bike ped facilities are constructed not only to serve the existing population, but they're sized to serve growth as well. So there'll be at least a proportional allocation to those projects. That's probably the simplest approach we would use with those types of projects.
So you wouldn't necessarily add 100% of the cost of that as capacity? You might.
Not often. And we worked with the transportation engineers who wrote the plan on the allocation percentages that you see there. So in some cases, they had the information to do that, but not often.
Got it. Same for transit, the same kind of thing if we were building transit lanes or transit hubs, that would be included in the same way?
At least a portion would be includable.
Okay. I don't have any other questions about it. I think.
For reference, section SMC 2108040 is the impact fee reduction. And for low income up to 100%, that's 0% to, I think, 50% AMI. And then moderate income, which is 80% AMI, it's up to 80% for 4 units, or more than 4 units, up to 50%. And traditionally, we have granted for the 4 units the full 80% reduction. So we continued with that with the most recent one that I processed, just because that's historically what we had done prior to my time here at the city.
Doesn't that seem reversed?
One of the reasons why we're cleaning up the code is we come across many instances where we feel the language doesn't really represent what we're trying to achieve. So there is a whole new code section coming that we feel is more reflective of what the city's trying to achieve in alignment with state law and more efficient to read in general.
Can you address the, are we using the TIP for the projects, the 6-year project list, or are we using the TMP for the list?
It's a both situation for this. It's the 6-year list, I believe, and again, I'm not Public Works, but I'm translating as best I understand project list from Public Works, and a selection of the likely to happen 20-year list. It excludes, it's not the full unconstrained project list, it excludes kind of the less likely to happen ones. So it's a combo of those two.
And that's part of what you mean by legally defensible? Picking projects that are likely to take place?
Yeah, that's actually not a requirement. The only requirement in the statute is that the list be part of the capital facilities plan element of the comprehensive plan. So they've got to be in the adopted list, and then you can take a subset and use them for
Even
the
if
impact
it's
fee.
20 years?
Yes. What we care about is matching the project list and the capacity in that project list with the growth that's in the denominator of the calculation. So we can go longer than 6 years.
I just want to acknowledge the email from Planning Commission member Safavian for some really relevant comments. I'm kind of sorry that they're not really for tonight to review, because I thought they were really important, and I will definitely want to include that in our next conversation when we have more information. But so far so good. I like your ideas.
Councilmember Boyer.
All right, thanks, guys. Taking Councilmember O'Farrell's suggestion, I attended the meeting. So even though I did, I still was uncertain about the eligibility percentage. So you've got, like, Sahalee is the one we brought up, 1.2 million, but 14.96%. How did you come up with that again? And I'm sorry, you explained it that night. I didn't catch it.
This is why we brought him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and we got it from the transportation engineer. So unfortunately, all I can tell you is we did work with them on each of those project cost allocations, and they provided the allocations for us by looking at volumes before and after the improvement is typically how it's done to derive those percentages. And I can get you a better answer, but not tonight.
We could follow up with maybe an email to the council with a kind of written explanation from that consultant about their methodology for assessing that.
Yeah, because I would think that percentage matters a lot. Okay. Other question, in terms of the commission made or is in conversation about stratifying by different housing types or by square footage or something like that, rather than the weighted average. And then, Evan, I talked to you specifically about, does that math turn out the same? If you were to stratify it, would that just be the same as a weighted average because you got the math in there? Is that something you're still working on, or how did that conclude? Because again, I was attending and then not questioning, so now I'm questioning.
So would it be revenue neutral? Is that what you're asking essentially, with the scaling versus the uniform approach?
I think to help provide background, one of the ideas that came up at the Planning Commission meeting was say that could we at the low end, at the minimum impact fee, say make a policy decision to assess 0% impact fees for that, and then at the high end, you scale it up over that range and assess 100% impact fees. And so as you step down in size, you pay a lower fee. And that was an idea that was tossed out. And we checked with the experts, and that is frowned upon. And John, if you want to talk about why that's not rate setting best practice, I'll let him do that.
It's frowned upon, is what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't frown, but yeah.
And I was not. The reason I say that is that I don't know if it's just linear, and that would be the concern.
So the curve that we look at is in the community housing survey, which is based on census information, can show us a pretty strong correlation between the number of occupants and the size of the dwelling unit. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, it goes up in a fairly straight line, and then it curves, and after a certain house size, there's no longer a correlation. You can't tell how many people are going to live in that home. So we interpret that as a straight line up to that point and essentially calculate by using the average dwelling unit size and the impact fee for, the basic impact fee. We can then calculate a fee per square foot. And then we take that down to the point at which one occupant by these averages would be served, the square footage at which one occupant would be served. That sets the minimum impact fee, and then the maximum is where that curve flattens out. So because it's all basically population growth based, if the mix of dwelling unit types changes over time, it should still get you the same revenue that it would have, because it's going to take more small dwelling units to serve the same amount of people as larger homes. It should be revenue neutral over time. We haven't seen these in place for enough years to know for sure that will be the case, but that's how the math, we anticipate the math will work.
Yeah, so I was saying earlier that maybe the math turns out to be the same, and so we might have granularity that is overkill. But is the Planning Commission still going to discuss that issue, or is that closed?
I think as far as we understand, as a rate setting practice, it's not good practice to charge one dwelling unit in particular less or more than others. We should set a standard rate, except where we have leeway to provide waivers, like with affordable housing or ADUs or additions. Yeah, and exactly, that authority is given through state law. So I think that issue is sort of off the table to follow best practice and, again, ensure that we have a legally defensible fee program.
And you said the words early on, nexus and proportionality. What we're trying to do is ensure as best we can that the amount you pay is roughly proportional to your impact on infrastructure. So once we start manipulating the curve or changing those percentages, then we are breaking that relationship or risking that relationship.
Got it. And then on slide 12, you're talking about just that one, for example, the denominator, growth in new person trip ends. Is that, what period is that for? Is that project, or is that city? What?
That's a great question, and it matches up, as John said a few moments ago, with the length of the project list. So in this case, we have ultimately a 20-year list. In the parks example, we're working with a 6-year project list. So we've taken the growth estimates from the comp plan, which is a 20-year, and derived a 6-year estimate based on that.
Okay, for project. Got it. Got it. And then as far as 100%, I'm all for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Treen.
Thank you. So first, have 100% fine, legally defensible. And I would do that even on affordable housing as well. And then would consider the waive on impact fees for the less than 30% AMI. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you. I had a question on the scaling fees chart. So if we're looking at leveraging the maximum, so Sammamish current right now for transportation, it's 14,000. That would actually be 19,000 then, right? And then likewise for parks, it would be 8,299. Okay. So looking at that, we would be the highest of all these cities at 19,000, like we'd be the highest.
Can I add a point of clarity? So if you go back to the blended scale, so if you look at the blended impact fee per dwelling unit, that's really what we would be comparing across with the other jurisdictions. With the new scaling, because what we're looking at is the average occupancy, is that what it
Average
is?
square foot for the blended.
Yeah, the blended is just the uniform per dwelling unit fee based on averages.
So that's what would be comparable to today's existing fee, is the blended impact fee per dwelling unit? As
What is the
compared to
blended? I don't know.
compared to the maximum.
I don't know what
is the blended? What is that?
It's the third row from the top of that, the top of that table. That is the basic, if you were to continue applying the impact fee uniformly per dwelling unit, that's what the numbers would be. That's 6733 for parks and a little over 16,000 for transportation. With the scaling, the maximum becomes the 19,742, as you said, and the minimum at the 5825. The one thing that's not shown on the comparables chart is many of these cities are going through the same process you are and scaling their impact fees. What we're showing are the average fees, but if we were to show you the maximums, many of those would be comparable to your maximum because they're also scaling.
So I guess I'm not clear. So all these cities that we're looking at the maximum, whether it's going to be updated. These are all the maximums for the cities.
Those are the
blended
averages, the blended.
The averages.
Yes.
So for Sammamish, this would be 19,000 then, right? Or would it be an average, which is 16?
It would be 16,000.
It would be 16.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that leads me to the next question is there's a big difference between the parks fee and the transportation fee. And I'm taking a look at some of these other cities, like Bellevue, for instance. If you add up the total, it's 8 million and we're at 22. So, I mean, we're almost triple what it costs in terms of impact fees. And I'm trying to understand why our fees are so much higher than, say, Bellevue.
It has to do entirely on the different project lists, the different, in the case of parks, the parks inventories, what the level of service is in those locations. For transportation, you know, if you think about Sammamish's transportation system, it's different than many of these, which have much larger commercial sectors, so they're able to share the costs among a larger customer base and growing customer base because of the commercial element. So there's lots of, it's apples and oranges just by definition, but we know that you're probably interested in what's happening around you, but there's a variety of reasons.
Yeah, because Issaquah is pretty close, you know, 10,000 for parks, 11,000 for transportation, you know, and then we're like, there's a big difference between 6,000 and 16, you know, so it's more than double. So is what you're saying that the fee, the framework that you're calculating, it's different for every single city? So
well, the formulae are generally the same from city to city. The inputs differ a lot. You know, you'll see a $150 million transportation plan in one place and a $900 million transportation plan in another place, just depending on the characteristics of that city. Many of these, I can tell you, Bellevue's undergoing a park impact fee analysis right now. They didn't have one. Redmond, same thing. So a lot of these numbers will change.
Okay.
And they might not rely, as a city, they might not rely as heavily on impact fees as a revenue source. They might have a transportation benefit district. They might have a parks district to help fund those. So it's just adding to, there are a lot of different things that can show up in why they're different fee amounts.
Okay. So I am fine with leveraging the maximum, and I'd like to exempt, just like what Planning Commission right now has recommended so far, which is exempting the deepest affordability, and I'd like to take a look at the scale for the higher income levels.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. If you can go back to the one with the table, the scaling table. Oops. No,
the fee. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. So based on what you were saying, if I understand correctly, the reason that the minimum square foot is 783 is because that's like a single person, because we don't have any units that are 783 in Sammamish. Like that doesn't exist.
When you look at the average occupants per dwelling unit in Sammamish and the square footage, the average dwelling unit size, that is equal to the square footage that serves one occupant,
So
just
like
by average.
four people would be 3,200 square feet roughly.
If you, I
okay.
mean, if
That's
you were
what-
to carry that math through, all we really care about for our purposes there is what's that, where should we be setting that minimum
Right.
fee?
So why is the maximum square foot 2,600, and how did we come up with an average square foot of, I think it was 2,153? Because that seems low for Sammamish.
It does, it's actually higher than the average square footage per dwelling unit in the region.
Well, yeah, but Sammamish.
Yeah, I know, but it
That's
is.
right.
It's
So is
single-
this a Sammamish calculation?
Yes.
Okay, so
And it
the average
includes-
size is 2,153?
It includes multifamily dwelling units as well as single family, so
Okay.
it's per dwelling unit, period, and surprisingly low, yeah.
Okay.
And we do have some older housing stock that is smaller.
Yeah.
Much of the newer housing stock, you've seen the sizes go up. That's just what the market's done.
Yeah.
And I have to ask the question because James Eastman asked it. Does this include the garage?
Darn it. It includes whatever you guys include.
Excellent. So one question I have, since we kind of established, right, that we want to encourage smaller units, is there any reason why we wouldn't, instead of just looking, like I think there are two sets of affordability. There's affordable housing that is like labeled affordable housing and will be managed as such, right? And that's where we have the 30, 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 80, and 80 to 100. But those are managed, right? And those will be managed through ARCH and other means. And I think we should definitely look at, I'd actually like to look at giving 100% discount to 60% and below, and then scaling it from 61 to 100. But then on the other side, right, we're trying to encourage the smaller units that excuse me, may not be a managed affordability, but that would be affordable by virtue of being smaller, right? And that's where we came up with our 1,500 for the fee in lieu of. Is there any reason why we wouldn't have an exemption for anything that's less than 1,500 square feet? Or could we consider that?
You would, again, that nexus and rough proportionality, you'd be shorting yourself revenue for one thing, but also, smaller homes still have an impact on the infrastructure.
Right.
So what we're trying to achieve is linking smaller dwelling units to needing less infrastructure, hence the scaling. If you were to just exempt them, I guess I would argue you would be jeopardizing this as a rate or as that proportional relationship.
Yeah,
because
but
they're
we're
still
trying to
demanding
encourage the
infrastructure.
affordable housing.
I totally understand.
There's sort of we can collect the revenue and then pay it back out to go build affordable housing that we then have to manage. Or we can incentivize smaller units that are naturally more affordable that we then don't have to manage, which over the long haul will actually cost government agencies less, right? Because we then don't have to put in money to get them built, and we don't have to manage them through a program like ARCH. They will just be naturally, I think, Michael, you were the one that says, kind of try to let the market drive that. So that's where I'm kind of coming from, because a 1,500 square foot house would roughly have 12 $17,000 worth of impact fees, right? Just doing some quick math there. So I worry that by having $17,000 worth of impact fees, we've just taken it out of the affordability range, potentially. Or maybe it's a scale there. And I understand what you're saying, like, even our affordable units, right, at 0 to 30, they will have people in them, they will have impacts. But there's a balance here of saving money up front or spending money down the road, right? And I feel like every time a dollar exchange hands, there's a cost to that. So if we impose a fee and then, right, and collect it, and then we have to turn that around and put money into building affordable units, that is way less efficient, I think.
So I think one other way to think about it is for the affordable units and for waivers or reductions for affordable units, we are allowed to do that explicitly under state law.
Okay.
For voluntary changes that might disrupt the nexus and proportionality, the scaling and how that works, it might present a liability.
Okay.
The one thing that we would recommend if you do something like that, which of course you can do, that you backfill the lost revenue from an external source. So that way the program is whole and you're not jeopardizing the equitable share that someone else is paying if you refill that lost revenue through an external source.
Excellent. And then the 2653 as a maximum, again, we have quite a few houses that are much larger than that. It stopped at 2653 because that's the point where you said it plateaus, and above that, you don't necessarily, or you don't know. It's not that you don't necessarily have more people, but you don't know if there are more people.
Yeah.
So
the correlation,
in the 6 and 7 and 8,000 square foot houses, they're still going to pay the same as the 2,600 square foot house. Excellent. And then how do we, because with the difference between multifamily and single family, which it sounds like we're getting rid of that altogether, it'll just be solely based on square footage. For example, multifamily in the town center, one day will have a transit center. And so they will take transit potentially and will not necessarily have as many car trips, right? So their impact on the road system would be less. How would we be able to account for that in the future if it's just based on unit size?
So the transportation impact fee calculation is based on this concept of the person trip. And what we're trying, where in the past it has been largely based on vehicle trips. So the person trip is intended to represent all types of trips, transit, bike ped, and it fits a multimodal project list very well. So it should size with the dwelling unit because of the multimodal nature of the list. There's still that relationship there. And but it's all based on trip generation statistics and those adjustments from the ITE manual and industry data.
Okay. And that does, I forget who asked the question about like, how do you come up with the percent of a project? And that is based on looking at traffic modeling, right? That says, if we go build this house over here, or we build this development over here, what roads will that traffic generally go to? And then what percentage of the traffic is going to be from that new development? Because I do believe one of the factors in the law is that we can only charge proportionally. We can't force a new development to pay for the entirety of a new road, just the portion that they're going to use. So,
can I ask one clarifying question? We do have the ability to, in other cities that might have a more advanced system of transportation planning, not that we don't, but there are bigger cities with more complex transportation systems, have the concept of different service areas. So you could break it out into different service areas. You could isolate, for example, your town center into a different service area down the line, 20 years from now, and it could evolve that way.
And yeah, that's a great point, because there are examples of where you've got dense housing close to transit, where they will discount an area in there just because of their proximity to transit.
Right.
And reduced impact on the system. So yeah, and I can get you examples of.
Okay,
of
so
those types of
as we move forward, if we ever do build a transit center, if we ever do build out the town center and build a transit center, as we hope to do, so that we can actually reduce our impact on the environment, we could come up with, like there's the transportation benefit districts that we have, we could have something, a similar concept that says, these are the people most likely to take transit. Okay. All right. Yeah, I definitely support the starting out at 100 and then discounting for affordable housing. And I really do want us to figure out a way to make that more attractive as best we can. Thanks.
I've got some questions if that's okay. Okay, thank you. So I feel like I missed something really basic out front. What resulted in the baseline or blended impact fee equaling essentially what we're charging now with the, how did that happen?
That was a coincidence of the math.
So I didn't miss anything, it just happened. There wasn't an intent. Okay, that's good. I'm glad I didn't. Okay. And then we were talking about a refresh, which is of course important, and you mentioned like every 2 years off cycle from the budget, but at what point in the application project for somebody is that fee locked? Are they going to wake up one day and realize they're having a really bad time?
We could change it in the code, but point of payment typically. There are multiple ways to approach that with code language. One item that we wanted you to be aware of is that we do have the ability to defer payment. Now, most builders these days are building in a cash poor environment, and they are relying on credit. They don't want to take out a big loan to build their project to pay impact fees to get the permits, right? So what they'll do is they'll defer it. They'll put a lien on the title of the property, and we will release the lien upon payment. The payment will happen at escrow at closing of when the home sells. So it's rolled into ultimately the sale price of the home. They don't have to front the cash to pay the fee up front, but we can defer it till a later date of when occupancy occurs. In theory, nobody's showing up to live there, so the impact is not there yet. The challenge is getting that money into the pipeline and spending the money to build the infrastructure. I think with my explanation, I lost track of your question, so I apologize.
I think you got there. So and this clarifies something else that I think I was going to ask. I've only purchased a home a couple times, so I don't remember all the fees I paid. The impact fees happen at the point of sale, so I am closing, and can you clarify?
The point of payment. So you could choose as a permit applicant, let's say you're building a new single family home, and say you're a contractor, you could choose, you're building a spec home, you could choose to pay it at the point of permit issuance, at which point it will be assessed based on the fee at that point in time. You could choose to pay it prior to final inspection. You could defer it and choose to pay it prior to final inspection, at which point it will be assessed based on the fee in place at that time. Or you could choose to pay it at the point of closing of the sale of the home, which would be assessed at that point in time when it is being paid. Again, right? So, and generally speaking, impact fees don't go down. I mean, they could. We could start to see changes in how things work. Or there could be a policy choice to reduce the fees or something along those lines across the board uniformly. But that is how the assessment of impact fees work. We're writing the code basically to reflect that. And you'll see that the question for the council and the commission is, state law requires that we allow deferral of 10 units in a development per applicant, right? So the question for the council is, but you could choose as a policy matter to defer more, unlimited. You could choose to allow deferral. Builders don't have to defer, but the option of deferral for all builders, they could choose to pay at the point of building permit issuance. They could choose to pay at the point of final inspection, or they could pay when the home is first sold. We recommend that because there are all sorts of financial arrangements that we're seeing these days that are making building really challenging. And when a builder puts up a bunch of money to get permits, and then they can't finish the project because they put their money into impact fees and can't get the project to market it's a problem for us. We have had many of those situations in the past few years. Builders are stretched thin, and their costs go up. They didn't predict it. They can't finish the home.
Gotcha. Okay, that perfectly answers my question. My last question is going to be very challenging and probably unanswerable, so I'm sorry. We have a new code that allows you to not pay fee in lieu if you add a additional unit that is within a certain AMI band. So we've got incentives for a developer to already build those. So say we add in another layer here with our impact fee that says you get an impact fee reduction or pay nothing at a certain AMI band. My question is, how can we ensure, and this is where you probably can't, that this fee reduction is actually going towards making the home more affordable and not just going and backfilling the cost of something that they were already going to do anyway because we're already incentivizing them to add that additional unit at an affordability range?
So on the one hand, if I understand your question correctly,
I'm glad I did it well.
is that we are offering a reduction in fee for set income bands of homes, 0 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 80, right? And that we can, under state law, reduce the impact fee. It allows us to do that. Currently, the Planning Commission is proposing waiving the fee for 0 to 30. They're evaluating what we should do with the other bands above 30% AMI. I think I've heard that resonate here, that we should continue to evaluate that. What prevents them from not having that go into reducing the cost is that cost is then set by covenant that lives with the title of the property. So that property may not be sold. If it's a 30% AMI property, which qualifies for the waiver, maybe it's even 20% or whatever it is, there is a restriction on the title of that property that then becomes managed by Arch, which is some of our next topics here, for the life of the property. So anytime that property sells, or if it's a rental, if the tenant rotates to a new tenant, it has to be rented or sold within that income range, according to the terms of the covenant. So it wouldn't change it either way. If we charged it and they were selling it at 30%, it'd still be sold at 30% area median income, right?
So let me adjust my question a little bit. Let's put it at 80%.
Okay.
Right. So they wouldn't be able to resell it for higher than 80%, but we would be basically backfilling profit for them of a house they were going to put at 80% anyway because of the fee in lieu implications. So if we layered this on, what's the additional benefit if they were going to do it anyway? This is a scenario where they're already doing it because they're avoiding the fee in lieu.
Well, it would make the project more financially feasible for them. And, I've heard different angles on that. At the end of the day, we don't build housing. The market builds housing, unless it's a not-for-profit builder and unless it's there's a whole different category. Generally speaking, in Sammamish, our housing is built by for-profit builders. I say that because the for-profit part is important. If there isn't a profit, the builder won't build it. That's what we mean by financially feasible for the builder. Some people will say, well, they shouldn't make a profit. They're not going to build it. I'm not trying to argue either way. It's a simple fact.
Yeah.
So what happens here is that this then gets penciled into their bottom line, and it ultimately plays into whether they're going to build it or not. So what it would do is it would be a deciding factor as to whether a builder might come build 80% AMI units in the city.
That final point was a great response. Thank you. And let's see. Those are all my questions, so I'll kick it over to Councilmember Lamb. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear. I'm sorry to have to bring this back up again about the blended versus the maximum. So what we're voting on here is when we take a look at the scaling fees, that it's the next slide, that Sammamish is 14, but we're actually voting on 19. That is the maximum. So that is a jump. So it's not this $2,000 difference. It's actually $4,000, right? I don't know what the maximum is now.
There isn't one now. Because the city doesn't scale its impact fees now. The 19 would be the charge for the largest homes. The 16,000 would be the charge for the average sized home in the city. So that's the apples to apples comparison with these others on the list. But I mean, you're absolutely right. The maximum fee
Will be
for
19.
larger would be the 19,000. Yes.
Okay. And then parks will be 8,299 as the maximum.
So based on feedback from the commission, what I understood the majority interest to be was that we don't have a maximum and that it simply keeps scaling up. They wanted to have 5,000 square foot homes, pay $35,000 in impact fees. But the point there is that it's not the size of the home that's causing the impact, it's the number of occupants. If it's people-based, people trips, so that there's a point where you end up with a larger home, maybe you have an 8,000 square foot home, but there's still, according to the regional averages, only 2.75 people really using that home. There's just a lot more space.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yeah, I was all good until that last answer. So if the minimum fee is the assumption of one person, right? We're thinking that we don't have 4 people in homes in Sammamish? Because that maximum fee isn't even 4 times the minimum. Like, I'm struggling with that because.
So there are 4 occupant homes at every size. And what we can't say with any certainty based on the data is that there's more likely to be 4 people in an 8,000 square foot home than a 5,000 square foot home. That's where that correlation flattens out. So if you were to keep increasing the fee, you would be charging just based on square footage and not based on the likely number of occupants based on the data.
Not legally defensible.
Right.
So should we be looking at homes, like instead of just taking the averages, should we be looking at, can we do some sort of survey or understand houses above 3,000 square feet, are they more likely to have more than 3 people in them? Because right now those fees are just barely 3 times. So 5,800 times 3 is just a little bit less than 19,000. Because we know that we have large homes and we know that we have, homes where we have 5, 6, 7 people living in them, right?
I mean, what the data tells us is that on average, no, we couldn't say that at those larger size homes, there's more likely to be 4 or 5 or 6 people than in an average sized dwelling unit.
And is this data? Is this like national data or is it
No, it's specific to the region. It's based on census data for our area.
But not Sammamish specifically, just the region. And the only reason I say that is because all of our averages, when you look at Sammamish versus King County, for example, we're different. Our median income is much larger. Our house size is much larger. Our number of kids is larger.
And we've debated this
Also,
quite
that's
a bit.
reflected.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
We've debated this quite a bit as part of the comprehensive plan. And there was a number that was ultimately adopted as part of the comprehensive plan at the county's direction, that was the number we should use.
Okay.
We felt that it was low compared to what we knew to be true. However, it is also, as I understand it from the recently departed county demographer, that we as a city are trending down.
Okay.
That as we age out, we're trending down. We're getting more towards the 2.75 range. That as kids move out of homes and that as we age out as a community, we trend down.
So you're not counting my dogs is what you're saying. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other council questions. So did you have any final thoughts for us?
Thank you for the discussion. This is really helpful. We'll watch the tape probably 2 or 3 times and make sure we've got everything, and we'll report back to the commission on what we learned.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. And then up next, it looks like David Pyle stays with us.
So bear with me as I am promoted to panelist. There it is. And I do want to thank everyone in the audience for sticking with us as we've made it through all these different items this evening. It's quite an agenda, and also the council for your commitment to sticking with us here. It's 9:23 according to my computer, so the agenda says 10 o'clock is when the meeting will conclude, so we'll try our best to get out of here on time. I'm still waiting for my promotion.
We believe in our ability to maybe get there.
All right, Mayor, Council, David Pyle, Department of Community Development. The next item on the agenda is a review of the Regional Coalition for Housing, or ARCH, Housing Trust Fund disbursement for 2026. We'll start tonight's presentation with a quick overview of ARCH. ARCH supports its member cities to create affordable housing for low and moderate income households in a number of ways. You can see here the list of ARCH member cities. I think it's 18, if I recall correctly. I may not have it right. ARCH was founded in 1992. Sammamish joined in 2008. ARCH assists the city in meeting its Growth Management Act objectives, extremely helpful and supportive with the city trying to navigate the ever-changing world of affordable housing. Sammamish has a representative on the ARCH Executive Board, myself, as appointed by the city manager. The Executive Board is comprised of city managers and other department directors from each city, and meets monthly. And the Executive Board guides ARCH activity and investments, and provides executive level feedback to the executive director, who then leads the ARCH staff. In essence, one thing to understand is ARCH staff are City of Bellevue employees by matter of how the interlocal works. They enjoy the benefit of the the Bellevue administrative structure, HR, legal, those sorts of things. Without that, it would be really hard for ARCH to prop up its operations and have their own HR, their own legal, all of those items that go along with a government agency. ARCH employs a wide range of strategies to promote the delivery and preservation of affordable housing. One of these strategies is through the collective investment in the creation and preservation of affordable housing. ARCH's investment programs began with the creation of a housing trust fund many years ago. ARCH member cities have continued to collectively provide voluntary contributions to the ARCH Housing Trust Fund for over 3 decades. A little bit of an overview on the Housing Trust Fund. One of the primary ways in which ARCH supports housing is through the Housing Trust Fund, which can be amplified through bundling with other funds and can become quite effective in helping move projects forward to deliver needed housing. While these projects don't comprise of the full funding for the project, it basically supports a local share that can then result in those projects becoming attractive grant recipients for other dollars, state housing trust fund dollars, philanthropy dollars like Amazon or Microsoft. And in many cases, the housing trust fund projects that ARCH moves forward do result in bundling of funds, filling the bucket, so to speak, so that projects are successful. Although the dollars that Arch does provide through the Housing Trust Fund is only a small percentage of the actual total cost to deliver those projects. Arch members contribute annually to this investment pool. We as a city contribute $100,000 annually through our budget, which is a quite small contribution compared to other cities in the Arch membership pool. Not to shame us, just noting that that is the parity and the comparison that is made. We do contribute in other ways, so there is that benefit as well. Over 120 million has been invested since 1992, 110 projects and over 6,000 housing units. This is a breakdown of this year's Housing Trust Fund funding round. You can see here that the member contributions comprises of $4 million. About $600,000 comes from community development block grants, which are awarded to Arch through Arch. Then in addition to that, in stacking funding, there is a Bellevue Affordable Housing Fund, a Bellevue Housing Stability Program, and the Issaquah Inclusionary Housing Investment Pool that goes along with that. That is added to the funds that are granted through the $4 million in member contributions. Bellevue does contribute to the Housing Trust Fund in addition to those funds. The general workflow is quite a process whereby Arch issues RFPs soliciting proposals for projects that it could fund or partner in funding. The projects are evaluated by Arch staff. They're then routed through the Arch Community Advisory Board, which is a group of community members that have been selected by the Arch Executive Board to represent Arch in review of Housing Trust Fund proposals. That group meets on multiple occasions, reviews the proposals in comparison to the criteria for projects that they're looking for this year's funding round, then makes a recommendation to the executive board, who ultimately then makes recommendations to the member cities' city councils, where then the member cities' city councils are under the interlocal agreement required to consider funding these and must pass an ordinance resolution, that funds the projects. So it's quite a process. And at the end of it, you can see where we are now, where all of the Arch member city councils are each in consideration of the proposed Housing Trust Fund allocations. The Housing Trust Fund priorities for this year are timely delivery of housing, maximizing unit creation, and focusing on some specific target populations. Just a high overview of applications received. Totaled 14.8 million in ask that were recommended for funding were 4.6 million. The number of units, you can see there, 505 units are represented. The total development cost of those units is 297 million, of which 4.6 million would be provided by Arch, of which 600,000 would be provided by community development block grants, and 4 million would be provided by member contributions. This is a list of projects. You can see the AMI levels there. This is the same list showing the Sammamish prorated contribution versus the executive board recommended funding. We do provide $100,000, as I said, annually as part of a contribution to that trust fund, although not all of that money is used every year. And at times there is a balance that remains, which is then rolled up into the following year. Sometimes that balance will follow us for a number of years and the balance gets much larger. So in this case, the Housing Trust Fund disbursement happens every year. But if we're only contributing $100,000 a year, you can see that if in this case we're dispersing $163,900, it's because there is a balance that remains from prior years. So this is an opportunity for any questions, and if you are so interested, you could make a motion to approve the resolution as listed here on the screen.
Does any council members have any questions? Councilmember Lamb.
How did we come up with the 163,900?
Right. So the 163,900 is the amount that's available in the City of Sammamish account, the City of Sammamish Housing Trust Fund account that is held by the City of Bellevue. And based on their accounting, that is the amount that's available.
Can we increase that?
We could increase, so we annually contribute $100,000. We could, as part of our budget process, decide to increase our contribution. It's voluntary. We could choose to reduce it too. Just wanted to, it's a policy choice on the part of the council. So this year, as we go into the budget season, if that was something that the council wanted to increase, that could be done, although that money does need to come from somewhere else in the budget, and just wanted to highlight there are pros and cons in that.
Okay, so if we move forward with the fund authorization, if we do choose to increase it, that would be for the following year then, right?
That would be for following years, correct.
Okay.
It would actually start in 27.
Okay.
The contribution for 26 is set to take place as part of the 26 budget.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Just out of curiosity, what's the next lowest city contribution above Sammamish if we're the lowest?
I could look that up and get back to you. I don't have
Any
that offhand.
idea of or you said we're like way lower, like is it an order of magnitude, like other people are contributing like $1 million and we're just 100,000? Is that kind of what we're talking about?
When considering different attributes, we're low, population, for example. But however, other cities like Bellevue have a much stronger economic platform, right? That their economics are different. So I don't know that we could compare ourselves to Bellevue. But when looking at other primarily bedroom communities, the per capita dollars is lower. And I could come back with a list.
Okay.
In the past, Arch has done presentations where they've gone through what every city provides and what the parity analysis is as compared to other cities.
I think that would be good for us to have when we get to the budget. I think it would be nice for us to know that. Thanks.
Councilmember, Deputy Mayor Treen.
Thanks. I just have one question. It's been asked of me multiple times, and I don't have a good answer for it. And that is there any way for Sammamish to get credit against its affordable housing targets for the money that we contribute to Arch? And I think I already know the answer, but I want to have your explanation on that.
Yeah. So it's a question that we asked a lot as part of the comp plan update and regional work groups. So this comes straight out of the State Department of Commerce guidance for updating your housing element. It was updated in January 26. And it basically says that the contribution can be accounted for. So every 5 years, we do a major report out to Commerce on our progress. And as part of that report out, we can account for all the dollars towards each project that we've spent. We don't get credit for the units per se, but we do get credit for the dollars spent on regional initiatives that are pooled, right? So we will need to work with Arch to provide for, kind of like if you go to a not-for-profit event and you donate and you're doing your taxes, you get a credit, right? And you get that piece of paper that you can then count. We would want to work with Arch on the accounting to make sure that we're working with all of the member cities, which is outlined here, that those groups can work together. Jurisdictions may decide collectively how the contribution to affordable housing can be documented consistently by all jurisdictions who have pooled resources. So that is something that we will continue to raise with Arch. They've indicated that they would like to collaborate on that. I don't see a problem with that. It's a matter of if we're a year and a half into it, 3.5 years from now, how we report out to Commerce in following this Commerce guidance. So we are tracking that and accounting for that, although we don't get credit for the units per se against our housing allocation. We do get credit for regional participation and forwarding the region's affordable housing goals.
Yeah, and the other option is to encourage Arch to develop a project in Sammamish, which would then bring in money from other cities in the region, and we would get credit for the units.
Right.
Correct.
And we do have that ability, you know, if we did come up with projects or if we're able to collaborate with not-for-profit builders, find ways to move one of those forward, we would be a really good grant recipient for Housing Trust Fund dollars. And Arch has said that. They really want some of the other cities, so it's not just Bellevue and Kirkland and Redmond receiving all of the funding.
Great. I know it's challenging because we don't meet the criteria for locating affordable housing without transit centers and employment, but it's worth investigating at least.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I do have a couple of questions. I believe we have some optionality for local taxes for affordable housing. I don't remember what they are. I think they might be REIT and sales tax, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot. But do you know if we're actually utilizing those to bring money in to dedicate to this?
Yes, we are under 1406 state sales tax funds. You can see here, this is a roll-up of funding received by Arch from Sammamish starting in 2011. And you can see how the administrative budget is another line in our budget that is for administration and oversight on affordable housing. Arch plays a significant role in making sure, as we talked about, that homes that have covenants on them related to affordability maintain those covenants. They also play a pretty significant role in supporting us when we're going through working on inclusionary affordable housing requirements, fees in lieu, those types of things. That comes out of the admin budget. The Housing Trust Fund there is that $100,000 per year that I mentioned. And then in addition to that, there is a state sales tax funds that would have otherwise just been sent off to the state for the state to do what they want with. And those are being diverted to the Arch Housing Trust Fund as well, which actually, excuse me, I apologize. I need to clarify that prior response about the 167, that it is also in part due to the state housing trust, sales tax dollars that are being routed into the Housing Trust Fund. So that helps clarify that. There is a residual balance that always follows us around, but that is in addition to those funds listed there on the far right column.
Okay, and the fee in lieu goes to which, but did you say it goes to the Arch, it just directly goes to the Arch admin budget?
The city's inclusionary affordable housing in lieu fee goes to a separate account that is held by Arch and tracked by Arch that Arch does not have access to, aside from tracking it, and that the city of Sammamish has discretion, the council has discretion over how to utilize those dollars. If we wanted to add them to the far two right columns, the 100,000 and 55,000, we could do that. If we wanted to use them as a local contribution to a project in the city, we could do that. The resolution that we passed, I think it was in April of last year in 25, outlines the city's policy on how those in lieu fees are to be held and what would qualify for use of those fees in the future. We wanted to wait a period of time and see how it all panned out and what we actually collected before we move forward with that. But those funds will be available to the council in the future. They're not very large as of yet, as we haven't had a lot of projects move through the permit process that required payment of those fees.
Okay, so it looks like we are, this biennium, we're, at 700,000 plus whatever's that other fund that the city has directly contributed to Arch as a whole.
700.
Over this biennium, we did 250 this year, 240 last year, plus 200,000 in the HTF general fund. So we're at 700,000 for this biennium, roughly.
For the administrative budget.
So all in, the money Sammamish is giving to Arch, whether it goes to admin or whether it goes to housing, Sammamish hasn't just done, 100,000 a year. We've spent a significant amount of money supporting Arch, whether that goes to overhead or
administrative function.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that that's what I was reading this right. And yeah, that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion if there is one.
Move to approve the resolution authorizing the City of Bellevue as the administering agency of a coalition for affordable housing, or ARCH, to execute all documents necessary to enter into agreements for the funding of affordable housing projects as shown in Exhibit 1.
Okay, there's
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
ARCH is great.
All right, seeing no other, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And, David, I think you're still up for this next one?
Yes, and I'm waiting for the screen to catch up with me here. I'm going to stop share and reshare. I apologize.
David, while David's getting that ready, I would recommend that someone make a motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes if anyone's interested. We'll have to do it at some point. We've got a 20-minute presentation and it's 9:43.
I move that we extend the meeting to 10:15.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded that we extend the meeting to 10:15. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you. So
Thank
this
you.
next item is related to another ARCH administrative business item. One of the joys of being an ARCH member city and being partnered to the interlocal agreement is that member councils are required to vote on major changes to the administrative structure of ARCH. This one I wouldn't consider major, but does still fall within the wheelhouse of the council. The issue here is that the existing process that was set up with the interlocal agreement some number of years ago resulted in a number of affordable housing units that were created that were subject to an older generation of administrative requirements. So there is a list here of projects that were built that the city was party to, whereby we, whenever there is a contract change, the city needs to be signature on those contract changes. It can be quite cumbersome. And this list of projects ends in 2009. In 2010, there was a change to the administrative structure of ARCH and the interlocal agreement that assigned Bellevue as the administering agency for contract amendments. And what ARCH is attempting to do here is to sweep these contracts into that same arrangement. The challenge is that it's quite complex when you have multiple member cities that are required to each sign off on a contract change. The structure that follows after 2010 assigns that contract change review and signature authority to one city, City of Bellevue. And it has been in place since that time. There are a long list of contracts that have been put in place and have been administered by Bellevue as the signature authority. So what this does is it pulls this list of contracts into that same arrangement and assigns Bellevue as the administering authority for contract changes. The issue here is that that currently each city has to sign off on agreements where there's negotiating and executing consents, assignments, and subordination agreements, partial leases of security instruments, a whole lot of, I want to say, contract items that I'm not as familiar with, but that Bellevue, in its administering role under the ARCH interlocal agreement, has specialized staff that work on these contracts and is able to assess them on behalf of ARCH. Whereas for those older projects, if this makes sense, we still get those And we have to then engage legal counsel, we have to engage Arch, we have to engage other cities, we have to understand what exactly is happening. I'm not trained in consents, assignments, and subordination agreements. So I don't really know what is going on when these things come through my desk, so I have to ask a lot of questions. It's not very efficient. It does not include Bellevue's assumption of any other legislative or administrative powers, the ability to approve any increased funding awards, the ability to negotiate and convey any interest in real property. It really is about contract management, as far as I understand it. And it is not something that we're equipped to handle, nor are many of the other Arch cities equipped to handle, which is why that change was made in 2010. The proposal is that we grant authority to Bellevue to serve as the administering agency for housing trust fund agreements approved prior to the administering agency's appointment in 2010. So sweeping these contracts into the current arrangement that we have under the current interlocal agreement. I guess the closing statement I have is that if it's good enough for the current interlocal agreement and the projects that come out of that since 2010, why would it not be good enough for these projects that were put in place prior? I think it was an oversight when the interlocal agreement amendment took place in 2010.
All set?
Back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I just have a question. I'm supportive of this. Do we have the authority to audit Arch's activities if we think there's anything that needs to be looked at? Or is there some other audit that goes on that gives us comfort that they are following all the rules appropriately?
Yes, and it has happened by other cities, and it has happened related to specific projects, even with regard to operational standards at specific projects. Imagine Housing had one a number of years ago where there were some challenges with how that was operating and there was an audit done. I have seen audits happen on other projects and contracts as well, and we do have that ability as a member city to do that.
Great. So I would move that we...
Sorry, we've got one more question.
If I could.
Councilmember Treen.
I'd like to move to approve the resolution to authorize Arch's administrative agency, the City of Bellevue, to administer housing trust fund agreement approved prior to the administrative agency's appointment in 2010, as shown in Exhibit 1.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
That's going to be a tough ride home.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
One final item. I apologize while I switch screens again here. All right. Thank you for your patience. The last item on your agenda tonight is a resolution regarding the House Key Plus Arch East King County Down Payment Assistance Program. This is a longstanding program that supports low and moderate income households to purchase homes. The resolution in front of you is administrative in nature to enable the down payment program partners to update the program to better serve buyers. No new funding is requested or proposed. The focus is to broaden the program application due to changes in the economy related to housing expense and transactions. The House Key Plus program was first established in 2005 by Arch, the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, WSFIC, and King County. That is the name of that acronym. The program is administered through the WISFIC and provides up to $30,000 in down payment assistance for qualified home buyers purchasing in King County. Based on early successes in the program, it was recapitalized by contributing partners in 2007 and again in 2012. A total of $2.4 million was approved for the program, although some King County funds were later withdrawn due to federal funding challenges. 81 households have been served to date, and the program has a current balance of $1.2 million available. Why changes are needed? Program usage is continuing, but has slowed significantly since 2010 as home prices have increased significantly and transaction costs have increased significantly. In order to broaden applicant eligibility for existing program funds, Arch, King County, and WISFIC have recommended program changes to better meet the needs of lower income buyers. Program changes are outlined in this evening's agenda bill. They're also listed here. You can see the current program limits and what is proposed. Also proposed is there's a third amended and restated agreement between Arch, between WISFIC and King County. And this really is just a matter of how the funding works and how it all fits together. The down payment assistance program has been an important resource for many first-time homebuyers, and the need for this assistance continues to be great. The executive board rationale for the recommended update is outlined in the agenda bill and includes better meeting the needs of eligible buyers, aligning with Arch's affordable home ownership program, which serves buyers above 80% AMI, and simplifying program administration going forward. At this time, Arch member cities who have funded the down payment assistance program are asked to vote on a resolution that will approve recommended program changes, authorize execution of program agreements, and ratify prior actions taken. That all the cities collectively work together on this and that we all need to be partner to it. City Council could choose not to approve this resolution included in the exhibit. Unless all Arch cities approve the amendments to the program, Arch will be required to continue administering the program per the 2005 agreement, which currently presents barriers to effective program utilization. And finally, for context, Sammamish has contributed a cumulative total of $25,000 towards the current $1,200,000 available in program funds.
Any council questions? None. Would Deputy Mayor like to make a motion?
I don't want to cause any issues, but yes, I move that we approve the resolution to approve revisions to the House Key Plus A Regional Coalition for Housing, East King County Down Payment Assistance Program, authorizing execution of relating agreements and ratifying prior actions taken in support of said program as shown in Exhibit 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, up next we have council reports. And first, let me speak to item 14 here, which is a letter in support of the City of Woodinville's build grant application to the federal government. The City of Sammamish had sent a similar letter last year, I think it was, and I would recommend that we sign this letter again and do well by our partner cities, and maybe one day they will do the same for us. So I would, if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to sign this letter of support.
I move that we sign the letter supporting Woodinville's application.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we sign the letter of support supporting the City of Woodinville. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any other council reports? Councilmember Lamb.
You called on me before I actually raised my hand, but I do have one now.
I'm sorry, I saw another city walk down the line. I thought that was a really clean way of getting the council reports done, so I thought I'd give it a shot here.
Last week, I attended the King County Affordable Housing Symposium. That was actually a really excellent gathering of electeds, builders, and developers, and there was quite a few panel discussions, and it was about the trends and the status of affordable housing in the region. There was a really good slide deck, and I just got it, and so I'll send it out to council.
Thank you. Councilmember Trent, no. Councilmember Stewart?
Yeah, just a reminder that next week is the EFR board meeting. I did let EFR know about our new folks that will be joining me on the EFR board. The agenda should come out early next week. It will mostly be confirming our priorities for the year and having a little discussion about our work plan and how we move forward. And then I did want to bring up the one discussion item about our retreat. So our retreat is not going to be live streamed or recorded. And since 2021, we've always live streamed and recorded those. And we do discuss what I would argue to be one of two of the most important topics that we discuss, which are our priorities and goals, right? And the other one is our budget. So I'm a little bit concerned in terms of our transparency that the discussion that we'll be having around the city's priorities and the city's goals won't be available to most people, because it's been my experience that not very many people come, excluding Mary and Paul, to the retreats and sit there all day. It's not something that people really have the time or the opportunity to do. So I'm just curious. Also, there is a council rule that says that council meetings can only be moved to a different location by advisement from the council, 3.2.6. So I think that we would have to agree as a council to move the meeting to a different location other than City Hall.
Okay, so I'm guessing you don't want to make a motion to that effect for a discussion to take place.
Well,
You just want to have a discussion on...
I mean, I can make a motion if you want. I'm just wondering, and I understand, Mr. Mayor, that you want us to be able to have some conversations. I'm willing to compromise to say, if in the morning we're having conversations to build trust and we don't want to record that, that's fine. But when we talk about our city goals and our city priorities, which could not be more impactful to our residents, I just feel that not doing that is a regression in our transparency, and I'm not comfortable with that. So if we're going to do that, I think that needs to be a vote of the council, and each council member needs to weigh in on that vote.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. And I'd like to speak to the decision that was made. So it was brought. So the facilitator met with all of us individually and interviewed us, and came back with a recommendation that we hold the retreat potentially in a different location and then not live stream or record it. I listened to that recommendation. I also thought about my own experiences in retreats, both in private business and nonprofits. And one, I feel it's important that retreats are held in locations separate than where you do typical business. It opens up a different way of thinking, and this can be a stressful environment. It removes that stress from the equation. So I think that is a very helpful, whether it's recorded or not, way of conducting a retreat. On the recorded element or the live streamed element, I also agreed with the recommendation to not record or live stream it. And it's because this council, everyone can look back at the election. There's clearly, a heated election. I was one of the people who have run against two council members that I'm serving with now in previous elections. And I think it's important that we have an opportunity to be vulnerable with each other and explain how we work together, and not be concerned that in 2 years or 4 years, the words that we say as we're trying to build a cohesive team to serve our residents are used against us later. And that could very easily happen, whether it's during the team building exercises or later as we're talking through what could become emotional topics on pushing city goals or priorities forward. And as we're thinking through how to do that, I think it's challenging for us to present our best selves or vulnerable selves and not try to play up for the cameras or the public that might be watching later. I think we'll end up with a better result by not recording it. I completely get the concerns about transparency. At At the same time, the meeting will be public. People will be able to attend and submit public comment. And I think the benefits to the residents of us being able to create a cohesive team as early as possible far outweigh having the meeting recorded for future use. And I completely get that there will be disagreements on that, but that's where I'm coming from, and that's where I'm willing to stand behind that choice.
And I appreciate that, but I don't think that I appreciate that you're the mayor, but as the mayor, I don't believe you have the authority to make those decisions unilaterally. It has to be something that the council body agrees to.
Councilmember Stewart, I agree with you. I missed that part of the council rules, and when it was brought up and the city attorney looked closer at it, she did recommend that we, one of two things, either make a motion and vote to change it for council rules, or during that meeting, we vote to suspend the rules and go forward with the meeting at that point. I support us having a motion here and letting this council decide one way or the other.
Okay, then I'll make a motion. I move that we record, at a minimum, that we record the meeting at our retreat when discussing the city's and the residents' priorities and goals.
Second.
And if I may speak to my motion,
yes.
I am all for team building. I appreciate having a different location, and I'm fine with that. As far as the discussion of the residents and the city's priorities and goals, if we can't learn not to play up for the camera for that, then we're not going to have. That's not going to be the hardest discussion we have. I'll just say that. As a matter of fact, I would say that in the past. That's been somewhat of a not too challenging conversation. There will be disagreements, but I think it's critical that, especially because it's on a Saturday, it's an all-day affair, people need to hear what that discussion is. And most people are not going to be able to come and sit through a Saturday meeting and listen to all of that. And trust and transparency is currently one of our goals. I heard every one of the candidates talk about transparency. And I think doing that at a different location without any record of it, an ability for anybody to go back and watch it, is the opposite of transparency. And I'm just not totally comfortable with that. I love that we'll do some team building, and I think that's great, but I don't think there should be anything that we're going to say. It's an open public meeting. There shouldn't be anything we're going to say that we shouldn't be comfortable saying on camera.
Councilmember Lamb.
So I support Councilmember Stewart's motion. I feel very strongly about trust and transparency. It is one of our council goals. It hasn't changed yet. And when I first got on council 4 years ago, it was a similar situation. It was 4-3. I was in the minority, and that retreat was recorded. And I do think we are doing a disservice to our community, especially when, as Mayor Amato mentioned, we had a difficult election. And for that reason, I believe that we should have this meeting recorded, because people voted for different people for different reasons. And when we're talking about values, I think it's really important for people to understand where this council is heading and what is driving those changes and goals in our work plan. I think it's a step backwards in trust and transparency if we don't record this meeting. And in addition, I did see email for reasonable accommodations and to make our city continue to be accessible. We need to open up this meeting, we need to record it, and it needs to be live streamed.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I have to say, up until we've had this discussion, I was in favor of us I didn't really think too much about it being recorded. I do remember in years past, previous councils having retreats, and they would have them off-site. They had them like at Saholly Golf Club and different places like this. Now, this is going back some time, but that was not an unusual practice. And I do take your point when we're trying to create maybe an atmosphere where people can be comfortable and trying to get to know each other in team build. So I did take that point, and initially I was really in favour of that. However, I do feel if it's part of our council rules, and whether we're in favour of that or not, or like it and how it's administered, we have to follow it. So I think we do need to shift it to a location where it can be recorded.
Okay, so just to clarify, the motion, I believe, is on simply recording the second half of the meeting, not on any location changes. Is that right?
If that's possible, and if not, then we'd need to move it back.
I'm in support of the motion.
Okay.
However, whatever the details are, sure.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that this was moved on a recommendation of the facilitator after interviewing each of us individually and privately. I think I didn't give much thought to that, because when you are doing a retreat, there's multiple reasons, and it is, to me, really the most important part of our retreat is going to be creating those relationships on the council. So I do respect the need for transparency. The meeting is open to the public for people to attend if they'd like to, but I feel like it's very last minute, frankly, and our facilitator has been preparing for this for quite some time. I'm not sure how she might change what she's doing if she knows it's going to be held here. The reason it's not being recorded there is they don't have the equipment to do it. So that would mean moving it here to the council chambers, and it just changes the whole environment. So I think there's no violation other than the fact to correct it with a vote of the council to not hold it as a public meeting. And if we have,
to not hold it here.
To not hold it here and to hold it off-site. And like I say, there is not the ability to record it there. So, oops, wrong direction.
Okay, see, Councilmember Lamb and Stewart, if I may speak for just a second.
Could I just ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Based on the deputy mayor saying, is there really no way we can record it? I mean, couldn't we just have a cell phone? Like, I don't know that if we're not live streaming it and we're just recording it, is there really no way to record it at the other location?
So a couple of quick things. One is this room is not available on Saturday. So the City Hall is going to be used for public safety testing for the region. So holding it here is not an option for Saturday. At this point, we're going to have a few hundred potential firefighters and police officers in the building doing some testing for that. So it may be possible to record at Building 120, right? And the motion on the floor currently is to record the second half, right? When talking about goals. I do not believe it is going to be possible to live stream. So I want to be clear. This stays within the motion that you proposed, Councilmember Stewart, right? I also don't know about the quality, right? You just mentioned a cell phone, which would not be great quality, but would be out there. I just want to manage expectations, right? So it is, either going forward as currently proposed, right? Under the current motion, recording at this point.
The discussion of city goals and priorities.
Discussion of city goals at the end, right? Which would, we'll need to work on what that quality would be like, right? And then the third would be to postpone and figure out a different date and time and come back and do it in this building. So
I'm just
the motion on the floor right now. If that satisfies your motion, we can try to record again, though. I just can't promise that it's going to be the quality that we have here, where everybody's mic'd and that sort of thing.
Okay, I'll just let's see. Sorry, we'll go to Councilmember Boyer.
Well, this is all new information. I have no problem being recorded. I do think that room, after being there, is problematic. It's really hard to hear, but I guess we'll speak loudly. Thank you. Yeah, I think even without being recorded, just being in that room, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how we're going to be arranged, but we'll have to work hard at that, which tells me that recording might not be that easy, but I have no problem being recorded and put on record.
I'm opposed to the motion. The reason why is we're not making any decisions about the goals. We're simply discussing them. The goals are going to come back, be synthesized through staff, be adjusted, and then delivered to us at multiple council meetings before they're adopted. So there's not going to be any decisions made at this meeting. The council is simply absorbing what we're saying and what we're thinking and putting together a document for us to later take action on. There'll be significant amount of time for the public to weigh in on what our goals and priorities are going to be. And for that reason, I feel like there's, that's the reason I'm opposed to recording the second half on top of everything I said before this started. But Councilmember Lamb, you had your...
Yeah, I just want to address that this isn't last minute. As soon as I heard that the meeting was going to be held in at Building 120 without it being recorded and live streamed, this was 2 weeks ago. So I emailed council, and so that was 2 weeks ago. So this isn't last minute. I would be fine actually with moving the date and finding another date that is suitable for everybody, because I do believe that it is a very important meeting and it needs to be, you know, we need to be able to hear other people speak, and it needs to be recorded, and the recording needs to be audible for playback. So my preference actually is to record everything, live stream everything, and bring it back to council as we have done for the last 4 years. Regardless if this was a facilitator recommendation, we have final say, and the facilitator, she's the facilitator. We have final say. And I think that trust and transparency should outweigh any concerns. And it is what we have stood for the last 4 years. We have had very difficult meetings. We've had meetings on Inglewood in public. We've had, town center meetings. They're all public. And I don't think we should be at this point like trying to, for lack of a better word, hiding from the public.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak on the motion?
I do want to reiterate that it doesn't have to be of the highest quality, but we have to be audible. Like a recording that you can't hear anything isn't really a recording. So that would be part of that criteria, just to be clear.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, we'll vote on this. If you could please raise your hand and say aye if you would like to have the second half of the meeting recorded.
Just to clarify, the part where we discuss priorities and goals, because I don't know if it's a half or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the part of the meeting where we discuss priorities and goals, raise your hand and say aye.
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 I'm sorry, can you raise your hand? Okay, and opposed? Nay? Motion passes 5-2. And then, okay, so we do need to have a vote to, I'm sorry? Okay, we do need to have a motion, a vote to move the meeting to the 120 building per our council rules that Councilmember Stewart pointed out. So if there's anyone who'd like to make a motion to move the meeting to the 120 building.
I move that we have the retreat at the 120 building.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have the retreat at the 120 building. Any discussion? Or would you like to speak to your motion, Councilmember?
No, thank you.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none.
I do have a question, because you're not the first person. I think Councilmember O'Farrell brought up, or was it Councilmember Lamb? Somebody brought up the room and the noise. Can someone speak to that? And is that really going to be a problem, recording or not, that we're not going to be able to hear?
I am not an AV person, so I cannot, but we will figure this out tomorrow. And I think that the commitment would be that if we do not feel like it is, given the motion that just passed, if we feel that it cannot be audibly recorded, then we will come back and act appropriately under the motion that was just passed.
All right, cool, thanks.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everybody.
Mayor, have we passed our allotted time? Do we need to extend?
Good.
Or we
call.
could,
Thank
or
you.
we could adjourn.
That would be awesome.
There's always that.
All right, I'll entertain either motion.
Move we adjourn.
It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded.
You had like 7
All those in
seconds.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Was also a huge mountain, so that took almost 2 years. It went to mediation, and again, the vote in the union was, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, I think it was 197 to 3, so it was approved, and I think that was almost 90% participation in the vote, so it was overwhelmingly approved by the union members. And I'm proud to say, as the board, that we were able to absorb those costs, so there will be no detrimental impact to any of the funds in EFR, and there will be no increases to any of the contributions from the members. So